and welcome to live coverage of the USA National Cyclo-cross Championships here on GCN Racing from Lakewood, Washington. The big question, Kaitie Compton, 15 times US National Champion. Can anyone knock her off the top? Kaitie Keough, Rebecca Fahringer, they have had a great season so far. Or can the Queen of US Cyclocross defend that Stars and Stripes jersey? I think it'd be really strange if we see Kaitie Compton not in her national champions jersey. We have live coverage of the elite women's race. We'll then move on to the elite men. Now, Stephen Hyde, Curtis White, Gage Haig, or even Kerry Werner. Kerry having the best season that he has had so far in his career. There's a lot to fight over in that Stars and Stripes jersey battle. In that elite men's competition, could it be Gage Heck, the rising star? A lot of us are also quite keen to see how Logan Owan of EF Education First, making his return to cyclocross action, does today. We are going over to live coverage. Enjoy.
Here at Fort Steilacoom Park for the USA National Cyclo-cross Championships. This is the course behind me, the start-finish area. I'm going to walk you guys through this entire course, give you guys some info and tips on things that I've been able to see out there and what I think you're going to see when you're racing. We're at the base of the first run up. You come off the start finish line, you're gonna fly up here, right there where that little trough is. Riders are gonna have to start to get off and run up this thing. Very steep. You have to pace it on this. If you're coming up to this and it's really, really muddy, slick stuff, you wanna grab the sides, but there's a lot of marks already in the dirt that you can use to your advantage to be able to get some traction out there. Gotta keep this stuff tight. So when I look at this descent, the thing that I think is when it goes to the right like this, for sure I want to be tucked all the way to the left-hand side. If you're doing this UCI line, it's not going to be good to be all the way on the right because it's a really sharp turn down at the bottom. You're going to want to be all the way on the left. But as I was pointing out earlier, there's some little holes in here that have come from the old trees that have been torn out of this descent in particular. So it looks like, not that they've clear cut this, there's no prickers or anything, but there are these little nubs from trees that have been taken down. So if this gets really muddy and churned up, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're not hitting those with your tires, getting any flat tires or anything like that. And if they're buried underneath like thick, wet mud, that you mark in your mind where they are. There's a nice line here, but I'm actually gonna go high. I like this more, sets me up good. Now this is where those little stumps really play in. Gotta carry your momentum. I presume there will be a nice line through here. Once the pros come in, they're gonna carry them all the way up through here. And then there's two options. You can go up the right-hand side for a quick little run up, or what I presume is gonna happen, especially in the pros, a lot of momentum coming up on this left line here. I like it way over here on the left side. Able to get up this. Riders come off those last bits. Now another split. UCI riders are going to go down this very steep part of the descent. The amateur riders are going to take a hot left over here for a little bit less, a little more mellow descent. This one though, very, very steep and gonna throw the elite riders for a loop for sure. We're here at the second big run-up of the race course, and I'm at what they call Heckle Corner. But the riders, unfortunately, are going to feel the wrath of this crew. You guys, what goes on down here? So you come off that second run up, which is definitely a leg cracker. Run up through here, you're gonna come up. This is a big power section, a lot of wide turns. You're gonna need to look for that grass. You're gonna wanna be crisscrossing the turns. You don't wanna go in all the lines that are already there. You wanna find that green grass because green means traction. Riders fly down here and now they go back down into the venue where all the tents and pits are. So after that big wide open section, now it is to the second descent, which is the big descent. Everybody's talking about this. A lot of big crashes, a lot of crazy stuff going down here. As you can tell, there's quite a few different lines all the way high on the right-hand side. Right down here through the middle has been chewed out pretty good. Then there's this big wide left-hand line. It comes down and then it shoots you left. There is a pro line just after this that we're gonna check out as well. So this is the last run up. This is actually a third run up on the UCI course. The amateurs will only see 2 big run ups on this track. However, the UCI categories are gonna see a third one, and it's this thing, and it is super steep. So my advice here is making sure that you get off and you start running with it way before you get to it, and then you use these footholds that are already in here, and I'll show you what it's like up at the top. Boom. Now this is the top of that third UCI run up. And I have to say that from my impression, this is where the race is gonna be decided. Everyone is gonna be racing to be first into that last run up. They're gonna get here and then they're gonna see this very treacherous off-camber descent back into here, which is gonna lead them to the finish line, potentially a national title. Personally, for me, with all these roots and slick stuff, I want to stay high right because as the bike carries a lot of speed and momentum, it's going to go through, and I want to have that entire part of the course to be able to use, to be able to slide down and use my momentum to get down to the bottom of this. Okay, so the weather has changed as it's going to continue to do throughout the weekend, but basically that last final turn up that big steep descent for the UCI riders, the other riders will just go straight past that. They'll come down, they're gonna go through a series of chicanes, but the course does widen up considerably through here, and then it's this big wide open stretch right before the finish line. Then you're on to the tarmac. Some things that I've noticed from the course, definitely got a lot of wide lines that you can take. There is a lot of green grass that's still out there. This course is gonna be a course of attrition. There's so many different obstacles that you're gonna need to ace and string together to be able to have a good win here. Flawless race, of course, in cyclocross, always important, but there's gonna be mistakes because of the slipperiness of the course, because of all the precipitation. This stuff's slick. There's little roots, there's little rocks, there's things that you can slip on. So you gotta get out there, do a couple laps, check this course out, and know exactly what you're getting yourself into. It's a beautiful track. It's very, very challenging. I think the organizers and USA Cycling put together a beautiful course that's gonna crown some very deserving winners.
They certainly deserve the rest after the race that our 17-18 junior women put on out there today. It started with Lauren Zorner getting the whole shot up on the front, but eventually we saw the Pan Am champ make her presence known.
Yeah, she was off the well, not off the back, but kind of in the scrum when they hit that first hole shot, but she did not waste any time going right to the front. That's where she's comfortable, that's what she knows, and she just took charge immediately.
Well, then consistent every lap. Maybe the most impressive part for Madigan Monroe out there today. It was only the final 2 times that she had to run through the sand pit. She was able to ride it every other time. And great ride in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th as well. Top 5 riders had a great day in the 17-18 junior women.
They did. I mean, Michaela Thompson coming out in her first cyclocross season ever to finish 2nd on the podium at national championships was just an outstanding ride. She made a little mistake at the finish, but she had enough time to come back from that. And we heard, Maddie say she didn't make it through the sand every time on the bike, but she was able to, she just did the most efficient, smooth thing and got through there and came across for the win.
I think everyone had a few mistakes out there today, even Madigan Monroe, but it's about how you recover from those mistakes in the sport of cyclocross. So Monroe comes good and solos to victory across the line to add a Stars and Stripes jersey to her wardrobe collection already. The Pan Am champ, and now she's the national champ with Michaela Thompson in 2nd, Lizzie Gonzalez in 3rd. Kaya Schmidt had a great ride in 4th place for the New England Devo team with Meredith Serpina, Lauren Zorner, Bridget Tooley, Cassidy Hickey, Anna Tenkik, and Aubrey Drummond rounding out the top 10. Well, as we go back and take a look at that U23 women's race that just wrapped up, Kaitie Keough set the tone early as she took the whole shot. We did see a few riders giving it a go early on, but once Keough got a clear road out in front of her, that was it. She never looked back.
She never looked back. She even never really needed to look over her shoulder at all. She could see the other riders coming around the corners and stuff, but she took control, took command of this race very early. Again, it's where she's comfortable. She knows what to do at the front of the race, and she never really let off, even though Hannah Ahrensman and Shannon Mallory were behind her 2nd and 3rd chasing. Each of these riders kind of had their own individual race out there, so really just kind of battling their own kind of mental and physical demons.
Well, then we saw 2nd and 3rd riding their own race with Hannah Ahrensman and Shannon Mallory doing a great job. This was Mallory on the way in, as Kaitie Keough took some preemptive bike changes in the pit today.
Yeah, not a lot of that really happening, needing to happen with the bike changes this week. That mud isn't really collecting, and Kaitie Keough comes across the line, wipes her jersey as clean as possible, puts her hands in the air for number 31.
So Kaitie Keough is your U23 women's national champion, joining the club that Madigan Monroe and Andrew Strohmeyer founded earlier in the day today. Rider noticeably absent here. A late scratch from Ellen Noble, announcing just a couple days ago that she would not make the trip to Lakewood after being diagnosed with the flu. So Noble is a scratch today. But Kaitie Keough is in the grid and ready to go for the Cannondale CyclocrossWorld.com team. 2nd to line up today, ranked 2nd in this race out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. So Keough will be the rider looking to upset Katie Compton as Compton goes for number 16. Guys, riders are in the grid. Looks like they are inside the 1-minute warning, and we are ready to go with Elite Racing. They've got the 30-second warning in the grid, and I can't wait to see this battle.
This, for me, is one of the races that I've been waiting for. I think of any race that we've had this weekend, this, to me, is one of the most wide-open races because we haven't seen Katie Compton and Kaitie Keough here in the U.S. racing. So we've seen a lot of the other riders going, head-to-head, but now this is the first time in a long time where we've seen the entire American group of top women racers in the same race.
Is this the year that Katie Compton finally gets beat? We've got an incredible field here to try to do it, but they've got 50 minutes before we're going to know who the new national champion is, or defending national champion.
Looks like Rebecca Fahringer leading off the front straight there with, looks like Beth Ann Orton right there next to her. So leading into the run-up, you've got two very powerful, strong riders, lots of national championships between them. Rebecca Fahringer, one of the riders who's had the most success this season, putting together a string of victories in UCI races across the country. She and her teammate Kerry Werner are making that squad just absolutely explode onto the scene this year. And right now she's leading the national championships. This kind of a course, I think, is suited to her power, but I think that the technical nature of it is going to be a big challenge for her to make it down these tough descents and off-cambers as fast as someone like Clara Honsinger or Kaitie Compton.
Well, somebody else we haven't mentioned yet who's on the front of this race right now, Courtney McFadden.
Yep.
So she is out of Bellevue, Washington, or Bellingham, Washington. So I was chatting with her yesterday, and I was like, Courtney, tell me what you think. What do you think of this course? And she's like, it's great. I love it. She goes, but the one advantage I have is that I know this soil. I know this terrain. I know this kind of the texture of this, you know, better than anybody else. We see her taking charge right now. And, you know, Courtney also did the BC bike race earlier this year. So she's got the skills, too. And so it's just going to, you know, she's got to be able to put it all together in a race like today.
McFadden ranked 5th coming into this one behind Compton, Keough, Honsinger, Fahringer. Then McFadden. Ellen Noble was ranked 6th. That'll move Sunny Gilbert up to 6th into her spot. 2nd place last year for Gilbert. You know, one thing about Sunny Gilbert, she has a quiet season and then seems to have a great nationals. That was how it was last year, and maybe the same case again this year.
Yeah, I mean, and she has a running background, so you know, the Louisville course suited her very well. She now actually lives in Colorado, so I've actually raced against her a few times this season, and she is such a power. All right, there is that the move? Is that the move that we saw last year between her and Ellen? Could it be?
The master
That
class
was
in
double the
descending
speed,
right there.
going right around McFadden like she was standing still. Kaitie Compton, high line, no rut whatsoever, total off-camber commitment to that traction that her tires had. She rockets around McFadden, back onto the front, in control. You get a replay of the action. McFadden on the right, here comes Compton, foot out. Wow, all the way through in the drops, just rocking that rut.
If I was Courtney McFadden, I would be so disappointed right now. You're like, I have to do this for another 47 minutes.
Right. You know, and it's interesting, Kaitie's style. So right now we're seeing some people just either choose to get off the bike and run, or just getting pushed off the bike and having to run. But there's so much chaos happening in this right now. It's oftentimes just safer to run, because that way you know you'll get through it. And it's actually, you're often able to pass riders when you're running than when you are on the bike.
Don't find us on Twitter. Sorry, Tim, Brad Sonner, Meredith Miller, and Tim Johnson. Let us know where you're watching from. I love seeing where people are watching. We're getting great tweets from all over the country. Kaitie Compton here.
And then number 17.
And one of the riders that we're not seeing is Kaitie Keough, seeing how she came out of that off-camber section onto the flats. See if we can get a look at what the top 5, top 10 looks like. But Compton leading the charge into the first run-up. She's always been a strong runner. I think McFadden, however, has got the motivation to go right around her.
Look, Courtney McFadden knows exactly how Kaitie Compton has won her last 15 national championships, and it's by getting to the front early and powering away. So McFadden is trying to get out in front of it. That's what you have to do. Not slip. Get in front of Kaitie Compton.
Exactly. The struggle is real at the top of that climb. And, you know, I think coming into so many of these national championships, people think, okay, who's racing for second? And I think finally in the last few years, the mentality has shifted, and it's like, we can't just focus on Kaitie. We have to ride our own race. We have to take charge. Because, Brad, you're right. That's how Kaitie's done it. She's gone to the front. She's taken command of the race early and been able to hold on that and just open that up. And so right now the other riders can't let her ride away. They just have to kind of forget sort of the prestige and who she is and just ride the race.
So Fahringer and Honsinger now making it back up. That's Fahringer and Dakota Max's jersey in 3rd, and then Honsinger in the orange jersey in 4th. So they have made contact with that lead group of 4. We'll call it 4 up front.
Brad, I'm going to say that it's going to be an Andrew Strohmeyer situation. The 4th place rider right there in orange, Clara Honsinger, one of the riders showing up in the podium at the World Cup in the U.S. in September. She has got a great chance of being that rider watching these top 3. You've got someone like Courtney McFadden obviously riding at 105% out there. She makes a small mistake on a run-up. Is that going to be too much? You've got a rider like Rebecca Fahringer, who's racing out of her skin, be with a 15-time national champ. all of these things taken as a whole, is Clara Honsinger in orange going to be able to take advantage of a mistake of those riders next to her?
It's almost like these three need to gang up on Kaitie Compton here if they want a shot at beating Compton this year. You can't really box her in. It's not like you can throw gloves or anything like that. But
right, but you know, I mean, the way that you race her is taking control of the race, not letting her have control of the race. And you know, and these riders right now that we're talking about haven't seen Kaitie much this season, except for the World Cups at the beginning of the season. Becca Fahringer has had a strong season. She ended up winning the overall Pro CX series, so you know, she's no stranger to being at the front of the race, winning a lot of races. And so these riders right now just have to think about riding their own race, staying within themselves, and hopefully at some point having the opportunity to take over the lead.
And you mentioned the Pro CX, the domestic cyclocross calendar here in the United States. Nationals is always weird with Kaitie Compton because she doesn't race in the U.S. a whole lot. Most of her season is based in Europe, so we don't see the matchup with Kaitie Compton against the America's best domestic riders until they all come back together for nationals. So this is a cool time of the cyclocross season.
And they're all together now down that descent. The front group of four, Compton leading the way into that rutted section. Look at the crowd ready to take over any of the overspillage of the riders. Hopefully they're going to stay within the tape right now, but Compton leading the way, in control, in the drops as per usual. I'm impressed by the way Fahringer made it down that descent right on the wheel of the best rider of the U.S. that we've ever had. There's Kaitie Keough. Looks like she's still in the top 10 off the back of this group though, but one of our pre-race favorites. She's got a little bit of time to make up to get back up to these four.
See the quick glance over for Kaitie Compton, spotting the turn a little bit, spotting the pit, making sure that she knows what's ahead of her. It's just one of those little things that makes Compton one of the greats.
Yeah, she knows every little bit. You know, just those little things. We see Becca going to the front again, not wanting to let Kaitie lead this race. I mean, everybody else is saying, okay, Kaitie, we respect who you are. We know what you've done, but we're not going to let you intimidate us, and we're going to ride our race. We're going to ride this just like we have the rest of the season when you weren't here. And just because you're here now doesn't mean we're going to just let you take control.
And that's a position that you get into. Like, she has so much respect out there by virtue of what she's done, but at the same time, you're right, you have to treat it like just another racer out there. If I want to be in front in this corner, I'm going to go ahead and do that. If it makes her feel uncomfortable because of that, then so be it. But Fahringer doing a great job starting the sand, hopping off a little bit early. Kaitie Compton staying on the bike, same with Honsinger and McFadden. So Fahringer, she's in control of the pace because she's first. So for her, it was better to run. Now she's going to have to deal with a Compton who's going to be able to maybe make a move after that sand pit.
Pretty impressive Kaitie Compton to stay on the bike too. When you have traffic in front of you, it's easy to think like, oh, I'm coming up on the back of this rider, I'll just dismount now. The Compton stayed calm, modulated her speed a little bit, I think, to stay on the bike but still behind Fahringer.
And it's hard to modulate your speed in the sand because you kind of need one speed to get through it. So if you have to slow down just a little bit and you lose too much momentum, that means you're off the bike and running too. But again, all three riders behind Fahringer were able to stay on the bike right out. But Becca actually made a smart choice. If she felt herself starting to lose momentum, she knew she needed to get off. She was in control in that section, so you know she needed to ride her line.
Clara Honsinger in third in orange. I can't help but look and keep an eye on that jersey because she seems so methodical. The speed that they're traveling right now doesn't seem like it's too much for her. The skills that she's showing looks like she's in control, as opposed to someone like McFadden, who really looked like she was just going to throw everything she could. You see the aggressiveness of Fahringer at the front. Third.
Well, looks like this might be the three riders of the day. Courtney McFadden, the early leader, the first one to give Compton a run for her money, dropping back down to fourth place now. How about Becca Fahringer taking it to Kaitie Compton today. This is how you beat Compton. You cannot be afraid of her. You cannot yield to Kaitie Compton. And Becca Fahringer is putting it all in the middle. This is all or nothing for Becca today.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of unknown territory a little bit for Kaitie Compton. She's not used to being in this position, so Becca is doing exactly what she needs to do by putting Kaitie on the back foot. Kaitie is kind of like, you know, she comes in the national championships, and even though in the last couple years we're like, is this her year? She was able to take charge pretty early on in the race. So this is a really unusual position for her to be in, to have to be in the chase group.
Here's Kaitie Keough coming through the line well back off of the leaders. So Kaitie Keough on a rough day out there today for the Cannondale Cyclocross World Team.
You know, and talking about Kaitie Keough, she's following in the footsteps of you know, her mentor and former coach Kaitie Compton by deciding to go over to Europe and spend the entire season in Europe. That's a first for her, but her and her husband Luke Keough really wanted to make that next step, and to do that they had to go base themselves in Europe.
All right, Fahringer and Honsinger now in front of Compton and even gapping her a little bit on the run-up here. Does Compton need to be worried yet, Meredith?
I don't think she needs to be worried just yet, but she's got to make sure she maintains contact. And, you know, is this an issue of bad legs, bad allergies, bad asthma? We know that Kaitie's had a lot of health issues, so that was another big question. Are these run-ups going to affect her her health?
Tim, this looks like it's getting bigger.
Yes, she has to worry. Absolutely, she has to worry. She's got Fahringer putting on the gas at the front, but it's Honsinger in the middle that I think is the issue. But Kaitie Compton is not the person who gets dropped on a run-up and has to charge even harder to make that gap up. She leads from the front. She wins these races from the front. You're absolutely right. This is a very unusual position for her to be in. Those two riders at the front really putting the pressure on her right now.
Yeah, huge opportunity for Fahringer and Honsinger. This is like we were talking about earlier, Tim, with teammates working together. These two might as well be teammates. I think if you're up at the front here, Fahringer and Honsinger, make a deal to get rid of Kaitie Compton first, and then we'll start racing. Here we go down as Fahringer leads the way.
We've got people watching this descent through their fingers as these riders go down this descent in these ruts, the mud. It is so tough. That crowd located right there, they know it. They can feel it. They've seen riders fly over the barricades, bikes in the air, hitting trees, stuck on wooden posts. They know how tough these descents are, and these riders at the front absolutely killing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, Becca Fahringer is just not looking back. I don't think she's even taken a glance over her shoulder so far. She doesn't want to, you know, of course, as she makes this little turn after the pits, she'll see a little bit of the carnage that's happening behind her. She'll see that she's, you know, opened that gap a little bit to Clara Honsinger, and with Kaitie Compton a little bit farther back, and so she knows now's the time to put the pressure on. Keep putting the pressure on.
Keough working her way down the descent as we go back to the leaders through the mud that has formed from the runoff on the pit.
There's Amanda Nauman going down. You saw Sammy Reynolds. We've got number 28 there. That is Stephanie Taplin out of Tacoma, another local rider. This is tough to see. Trek Collective rider running across the start-finish line.
Might be Aaron Feldhausen with 31.
What is it about? We've seen a lot of riders running through the start-finish stretch today. I'm curious what it is that's taking the riders out just before this that's causing them to run all the way back to the pits. It's a long run from this point.
There we go into the run-up. So Fahringer and Honsinger now. This is Clara's big out, initiation into elite riding. You've got the choice of being under 23. Racing at World Cups and now at the front of the elite race with Rebecca Fahringer up the run-up. Very solid runners, both of them. Newcomer to the front of this race, and Rebecca Fahringer, she has literally hit the ground at almost every single big UCI race around the country as she's learned the skills needed to the front. But she's showing that she has studied hard, and she's ready to maybe even win this race right now.
First time in 7 years that Kaitie Compton has not led the race after 15 minutes. We're at 14:49 right now, and Fahringer and Honsinger are going to stay away. There is Compton in third as she continues to try to close down this gap slowly but surely. Now again, Compton not panicking here. I don't think she feels like she needs to make the catch this lap. She knows it's a long race. She knows she's got plenty of time. But there is definitely an element of worry for Kaitie Compton. Right?
Yeah, I think she is probably, you're right, she's probably worried at this point. And I think, you know, she's having to manage her asthma and all the different health issues that she's had. And we've all said it, she was not expecting this race to start so fast. And so she's just having to manage. But at the same time, we've seen her come from behind in so many races to take the win. So can she overcome any health issues she might be having today, or assuming she's having any breathing issues, who knows? But right now, Rebecca Fahringer and Clara Honsinger are taking control of this race. And I want to say, you know, Clara Honsinger, she's the defending U20, or I guess the former U23 national champion from last year in Louisville. She went over to the World Championships, got to race as U23, and then this summer she actually came out to the Colorado Classic and raced on the road. And I was able to announce that race with you, Brad, and we got to watch her race. And you know, she's an aggressive rider. We saw her in the front group quite a lot at the Colorado Classic, and I think that, you know, that was a plan to continue to help her grow as a cyclist, give some, you know, put some endurance into her legs and some speed coming into the cross season.
Looking at the matchups here, you've got Honsinger and Fahringer. This is a tough one because Rebecca Fahringer, 31 years of age, she's racing as a 26th ranked rider on the UCI, 4th ranked rider here today. But you know what? When she goes up against Clara Honsinger, she has only been able to beat her once, losing 7 times. So that is the young rider who has shown that she can go ahead and finish in front of Fahringer. Is that going to be the way that it plays out right now? Right now, they are closely matched, locked bars right now at the front of this field. And you've got Portland going nuts for Honsinger in orange there. Kaitie Compton still in 3rd, trying to get back up there, but it's a lot of daylight back to 4th from there. But look at that, switching back and forth, left and right in those ruts. You've got a lot of skills under those tires.
Just great riding up front for these two.
I mean, if Clara Honsinger could pull off a national champion win today, as a first-year elite rider, that's really impressive. I mean, obviously no one else has won besides Kaitie in the last 15 years, but I would say that's a pretty rare thing for anybody to be able to pull off as a new rider in the next age group up.
Now, once you graduate to the next class, it takes a pretty significant step up to the next level. These riders working through it. That was the lap traffic.
Look at that crowd.
Yeah, nice crowd.
In and out, beer garden right there, flyovers. This is cyclocross in the best way possible, up close, in the sun, covered in mud. You've got a course that is just testing these riders every single corner they make into the sand. Honsinger leading for the first time through here. So now that they've separated, she's now in control. Fahringer holding the wheel, trying to make it through, following Honsinger's line. Got a lot of skill there. Fahringer just coming a little bit unglued, a little bit, dabbing at the end. You know, Honsinger being kind of taught some of the ways of the sport of cyclocross from Eric Tonkin, a longtime pro cyclocross racer. He's got an entire community of people coming together, banding together to watch Clara Honsinger develop. Now they're watching her at the front of this race. They must be going absolutely bananas.
Yeah, I mean, Clara Honsinger is just showing, you know, true class today by not being afraid. She is not intimidated by these riders, you know, as a new elite rider. And, you know, going back to that sand pit, she had seen the previous lap that Rebecca Fahringer was not able to make it through the sand cleanly. So it was a really smart decision for her if she felt like she was you know, a stronger rider through that to take the lead. And if she feels like she's, you know, in charge, this is where she wants to be at the front of the race, you know, not having to follow any wheels, choosing her lines wisely, not worrying about having other traffic around her.
Looking at Honsinger, you know, 2nd place at Pan Am's behind Magali Rochette, who's also another of those very, you know, high skill level, big engine, really close 2nd place there. But, you know, going back to the World Cup weekend and just seeing what she was able to do against the world's best right out of the gates. You know, you've got your preseason stuff, like you mentioned, Meredith, with the Cascade Classic, getting ready to, you know, have a debut at that level, and to be able to land on the podium, I mean, it signified incredible things to come, and we're watching that unfold right now.
Well, Kaitie all by herself, back in third position. She may need to start worrying about the race back to fourth rather than the race up to 1 and 2, because looks like this gap is growing. At 20 minutes in, we will get an official time gap as they roll through here. But Kaitie Compton not even on the pavement yet. Oh, that's her off to the left, up at the very top of the picture. I'm going to guess that's at least 10 seconds, probably a little more.
Yeah, I mean, right now with this overhead shot, we can't even see her in the picture. And again, it looks big on the road, and it's going to feel big to her too. I mean, closing a gap of that distance is really, really hard to do. I mean, the other riders either have to make a mistake, or she's just going to have to find, a second win to bring her back in contention for the top step today.
15 seconds for Kaitie Compton.
And speaking of Kaitie, I want to mention that she actually is one of the first riders we've seen who is the defending national champion not wearing the Stars and Stripes jersey, even though that USA Cycling allowed the riders, any defending national champion was allowed to wear their Stars and Stripes in their defending race to show everybody who is the current or the defending national champion. She's choosing not to do that. She's wearing a kit and a bike. Her Trek bike actually has a special paint job that they did for her. It's the topographical map of Pikes Peak. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, Kaitie, a auto racing enthusiast, along with Mark Legg. They like to get out, turn some laps on the track. So Pikes Peak, a special place for them. She rides there, and obviously the big car race up there as well.
And back to the action, Brad. We've got a gap right now. So Fahringer is spun off a little bit. I saw Honsinger do 2 or 3 pedal strokes farther into the run-up, putting Fahringer under pressure, and that is going to be the moment where Fahringer just has a little bit too much. She's over her limit. She's trying to hold the wheel of Honsinger. She has to hop off the bike across that off camber, but that pressure into the run-up, starting that climb, sprinting up there is what put Honsinger on the back foot. Fahringer on the back foot.
Here's Courtney McFadden ascending to the top of the run-up.
Up into the sunshine.
Don't go towards the light.
Yeah, and here's Kaitie Compton making her way across this tough section, this pro line that we didn't see in any of the other races until today.
And they're going to get 5 laps in here today, so this is the second of 5 laps.
And after we saw Becca make that little bit of a mistake there, it's such a hard place to be on. You're already on the back wheel of the leader of the race, and then you make a mistake, and you're like, you get so frustrated with yourself for you've done it right, you've done it clean, all the other laps and pre-rides, everything else, and then one little mistake, and you can't let the race get away from you now.
All right, so now Fahringer trying to come back from that mistake as Clara Honsinger tries to take advantage of it up on the front for Team S&M in the orange and blue jersey. But Fahringer's still in striking distance here, although that is going to be a blow. You'll have to burn some matches to get over that one.
Yeah, it's really hard. And, can she come back from that? Can she shake it off? Can she get back, into a good headspace, and she's got her pit crew probably giving her instructions, telling her just calm down, you don't have to try to get it back all at once. So just ride smooth, ride safe, and slowly but surely try to close that gap.
Here comes Compton through now, still staying calm, very clean on the jersey. She hasn't gone down and hasn't been riding through a whole lot of mud, but you can see this is where we just saw Honsinger leading the way through ahead of Rebecca Fahringer, so I think this might be even more than 15 seconds at this point. They're saying it's 30 seconds over race radio now, so Kaitie Compton is in trouble today. 24 minutes in. Is this the year that Kaitie Compton finally gets beat in Lakewood, Washington? All right, I want to go down to Dave Toll on course, who's been gathering some interviews and a little bit of atmosphere here in Lakewood. Dave, looks like Fort Steilacoom is rocking out there.
I hate to correct you, Brad. It's not a little bit of atmosphere. It's a tremendous amount of atmosphere. It is unbelievable. I've been to some races in Belgium and Holland, and this absolutely compares. It is absolutely bananas down here. When Kaitie Compton made that pass for second, listen to this. They are absolutely roaring right now. This is American cyclocross at its very best. Brad, Tim, Meredith, you guys need to get down here. It's nuts.
We're a little busy here.
Please, come on, Dave. Save us a spot.
You can save some beverages for us down there and make sure they don't run out of fake snow for the snow machine that they got running down in the Christmas Village at the bottom of this run-up. A huge party happening at Fort Steilacoom Park today. You know, the Pacific Northwest has always been a cyclocross hotbed, but it's keeping cyclocross weird. I would say that PNW has been pretty successful at that here.
Oh, for sure. There's decades of experience behind every one of these riders, whether they were a part of it themselves or not. You learn by osmosis when you're surrounded by people who've been a part of the sport for so long. So watching Honsinger, she is a product of the region. She is yet another one of our riders who comes in from another sport and finds her feet in cycling and just runs with it.
Kaitie Compton wiping her eyes there. Not sure if that was mud. You know, she always has battled with allergies. She's had a lot of problems with allergies in her career. I talked about how amazing it was that she avoided illness or injury or any sort of mechanical problem for 15 years here. But maybe that's finally catching up to her, because this is not the Kaitie Compton that we're used to seeing. This is not the Kaitie Compton that rode for most of the year. So something is wrong with Compton today. It's probably an illness, maybe battling some allergies out there. We don't like to guess, but
right. I think in that last shot that we just saw of her on that kind of false flat grade up through the orchard, you know, you could really see her kind of gasping for breath, really trying to get as much oxygen in as she could. And, you know, to me, that's a telltale sign of where she kind of is struggling right now. I mean, otherwise, she's like one of the most cool, calm, and collected and composed riders out there. And when you kind of see that, like, big breath, that tells me that, you know, she's starting to struggle.
The flat sections are where Kaitie Compton should be making up time, but instead she's losing time on the flat section. So that tells us that this is a different Kaitie Compton than we're used to seeing.
Yeah, and Clara Honsinger just absolutely taking control of this race, not afraid. She's just ripping these descents. I mean, look at that gap now. I don't know. There, Becca finally coming into the shot down there. I think that gap is getting a little bit bigger. You know, Becca really having to keep the pressure on the pedals to try to close that gap. But I mean, where do you do that right now? Down on the flatter sections of this course is where you have to do it. If you're unmatched in the technical sections, then you have to play to your strength. And you know, this is where I think Becca really needs to try to bring back time to Clara.
Honsinger definitely has the power to do it. You talked about her riding on the road, racing at the Colorado Classic earlier this year. So we know that she's used to long days in the saddle. We know that she can do long, sustained power efforts, as we see Compton flying by on the downhill.
Struggling or not, she's still so amazing to watch on the. I mean, she's got to be the the most skilled, most technically sound rider out here. She has so much experience, and I mean, the times that I've ridden, well, of course, raced cross against her, but like had the opportunity to ride mountain bikes or whatever with her, and just seeing the sheer speed that she can take through technical sections, it's so impressive to me.
The 15-time national champion trying to make it 16 today, but Clara Honsinger is trying to make it 1 with her first elite national championship.
Yeah, and there was no struggle whatsoever for Clara getting through that sand pit that time. I mean, having seen Becca before struggling just a little bit, I think that this is going to be another place where Clara can add time on Becca.
Well, the product of the Cross Crusade, you saw some of those people on the right-hand side, the fans going totally nuts for Clara when she went by. The Cross Crusade has got thousands of riders at events throughout the fall and winter, and it's like this breeding ground for all the fun and most exciting and best community aspects part of cyclocross. But at the same time, it also has someone who stands tall above the rest, skills-wise, physicality, like all the things that go into making an international cyclocross superstar. We're seeing them come together with Clara Honsinger right here.
Yeah, I mean, the support kind of, this isn't far from being a hometown race for her. I mean, we're not talking a very far geographical distance between, her home in Oregon and here in Lakewood. And so the fan support that she's going to have out there is just going to motivate her so much, and it's going to push her until, she has given everything that she possibly can to hold on to this lead that she has right now.
Well, this would be huge for the new graduate from U23 ranks up to the Elite field to upset Kaitie Compton. Just doing a little bit of math, if Clara Honsinger wins today, in order for her to do what Kaitie Compton did, 15 consecutive wins, that would mean that she has to win until 2034. Honsinger would have to keep winning national championships.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Wow.
So this will be the start of the 15-year run for Honsinger if she wants to unseat Kaitie Compton as the winningest American cyclocross rider ever.
If we're looking at a futures market, I'm in. I'll buy some.
Right,
I'm down. I want to see.
I got some options to trade here.
I believe you've got Kaitie Keough right there. Many-time podium finisher at the national championships. Looks like she's coming around after a bit of a slow start. She's definitely making up ground against a rider like McFadden and Compton right there. So, you know, if she keeps it on, she could find herself back on the podium, although I believe she'll be hard-pressed to get up to someone like Honsinger, who really looks like she's riding away with it. But, you know, at least she's got third and fourth right in front of her.
All right, here is Compton onto the pavement with nobody in front of her. I don't even think she can see who she's chasing anymore. In fact, I think she probably needs to be more worried about what I think is Courtney McFadden right behind her.
Yep, that is Courtney McFadden coming on. You know, slowly making her way back into a battle for that final podium position, assuming that, you know, Fahringer and Honsinger stay off the front. McFadden and Compton are going to have this battle for third place here. It'd be interesting to see if, you know, when Courtney, if she does catch Kaitie here, if she just goes to the front or if she makes Kaitie do a little bit of the work.
Judging by momentum and the way things are going, she's going to go right by it. And I think this does bring up another point. You know, we're talking about Compton being in the position of a favored rider once again, you know, having more than 15 years of being at the front of this race. But the other riders are winning this race, and that's the thing. Clara Honsinger is winning the national championship. She's not, Kaitie Compton is not losing it. Clara Honsinger is winning it. Fahringer is winning second place. You know, that's really important to mention. I want to give a shout out to some of our more eagle-eyed viewers out on the internet who really do understand how all of that works. And it's like, you've got someone who's a legend in the sport, you're racing against them, yet they are human. They are just another racer out there. Clara Honsinger flying across this course right now, making it look simple.
All right, let's go down to Dave Toll on course. He's got Clara Honsinger coming his way.
Well, Brad, it's already just a fever pitch right now. Honsinger making her way behind me. I have never seen anything like this in American cyclocross. Again, the scene is amazing. This crowd is clearly pulling for Honsinger. We're looking now at what's going to be Fahringer coming through. And again, they're cheering for everybody here. In classic Northwest spirit, it is on. So back to you guys, but I tell you what, out on the course, I've never seen it. It's not like another comparable to a cross race. It's like a Nirvana concert.
Appropriate reference for the Pacific Northwest. Thank you very much, Dave. Clara Honsinger, definitely the crowd favorite out here today. The hometown hero, hometown rider. And Meredith, that gives you an extra few watts riding on as close to your home course as you're going to get for a national championship.
Yes, it does. I mean, there is nothing like having fans out there cheering for you. I mean, when you are suffering, there is nothing better than hearing people yell your name and knowing that you have fans on every single different section of this course. It's so motivating. It gives you that last little bit of that last 1-2% to dig just a little bit harder when you're really, really suffering.
There's McFadden going down that same descent, ripping around there. As you mentioned, BC Bike Race, one of the races she did this summer. She has gone around Kaitie Compton, so she is now in third position, going around the champ right there. So getting back onto the podium spot. McFadden looking really solid here, just over 33 minutes into the race. She is moving forward, Compton is moving backwards.
And McFadden didn't just do the BC Bike Race. She actually was second at BC Bike Race, and she was second to none other than Katarina Nash.
We've got Caitlin Bernstein there going up. We've got Sammy Runnels here from Squid. two Northern California riders.
We saw Sonny Gilbert up there as well, second place last year. As we go a little bit further back, Bernstein, Gilbert, Runnels are 7, 8, and 9. Then Caroline Nolan in 10th, Raylan Noose in 11th, Sarah Sturm, who we saw won the single speed race yesterday, in 12th, Crystal Anthony in 13th, Stephanie Taplin in 14th, and Carla Williams in 15th, also in that single speed race yesterday.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the riders who did the single speed race yesterday and who are back out here racing the elite race today. I mean, it was not easy yesterday, so to be able to turn it around and do it 2 days back to back, that's impressive.
Look at the focus for Clara Honsinger right now. She knows she's in a real good place here, Tim.
Yeah, some of the things that I noticed with her earlier this year is that even if she was at the front of a World Cup, she didn't look like she was under that much pressure. She truly has a depth of ability that is not being even approached yet. Here she is on the front and just moving right along. Fahringer really locked in. I mean, that's some focus right there. Fahringer learning how all of these races come together, an entire season of chasing these different wins. She's won 10 times this year in different UCI races. So she's putting together an amazing race. You cannot give that enough attention. Fahringer doing a great job riding a very strong second place. When you talk about momentum, she's holding steady against the best rider right now in America.
This is a critical time for Rebecca Fahringer right now because it is still within striking distance. Everything's going to have to go right for her to catch up to Clara Honsinger, but with a lap and a half to go, it's like right on the line. So Fahringer has to start coming back now if she wants a shot at winning this national championship.
Yeah, this is the difference between being the leader and the chaser. You know, I mean, Fahringer right now is having to ride completely and totally on the rivet. She's having to think about where can I take some chances, where can I take some risk, whereas Honsinger on the front end of this race just has to ride smart and stay in control. But those chasers are going to have to throw it all out there, and you know, they have to be willing to lose the race in order to win it.
In fact, looking really good here. She is solid on that climb. She's got some great skills on the technical sections. She's still going up while Fahringer is going down. You got to take this moment, take this rest while you can.
This is the only part of the course where you get any sort of break. You get about maybe 10 seconds of just kind of coasting down this descent into the next really technical section. So you've got to take the chance to breathe and recollect yourself while you can.
Back to McFadden, working her way through. For the Pivot Maxis, presented by Stan's No Tubes team. McFadden, another local rider, Bellingham, Washington, her home.
Yeah, so I mean, she's another rider who's going to have a lot of fans out there, and I can guarantee you they're cheering so loud for her. They are helping motivate her to just keep pushing, moving her way. She's into a podium position right now, so I think she's going to need all the support that she can get out there to help her maintain that, if not even move into second place.
Through the fastest section of the course here as Honsinger is back down, skipping the pit this time through. As she continues to grow her lead over Rebecca Fahringer. We're going to get one last time check when they come through the line, and if it's not back under 10 seconds, that's going to be it for Fahringer to try to catch Honsinger here, as long as Honsinger doesn't have any problems, which is always a possibility in the sport of cyclocross. Don't forget, you can find us on Twitter at Brad Soner, at MMCyclist, and at Tim Johnson CX. Let us know where you're watching from, and let us know who you're cheering for up here at the front.
And the more biting comments, feel free not to tag us, but we'll find it anyways out there. There's a lot of stuff going on here throughout the race. If we're not talking about your rider, let us know. We want to find them. We've got number 19 there. That is Amanda Nauman, Southern California, on the front of two Northern Californians, followed here by the Rock Lobster rider. Number 10 there, Caroline Nolan. So another Northern California, followed by Sarah Sturm, our single speed champion. So she is coming off of a big race yesterday, still riding top 10 like that, or sorry, inside the top 12 at least. So great ride by all those riders. We got 57 here. That is our rider, Laura Jedelo from Seattle, Washington, another local. Chasing Honsinger here, number 3. Those two steep climbs. You know, she's going to be getting the bell here soon, guys.
can see those fans up there just giving her every ounce of motivation they have. They're just channeling all their energy to Clara to stay at the front, to keep this lead. Once she comes down off this off-camber section, she is going to only have a few more turns until she's going to see one lap to go.
All right, so Honsinger clears the descent one more time for Team S&M as she makes her way back towards the pit one more time, and then onto the pavement where she will see one to go on the counter. She has successfully dispatched Rebecca Fahringer. We're going to try and pick her up next as Fahringer comes through, and then Kaitie Compton slipping even further back. You can see now behind Courtney McFadden as they go through the sand pit.
Yeah, Courtney McFadden has, put a gap into Kaitie Compton right here. So this is going to be a tight battle for third place. Kaitie is not going to give up, and she keeps closing this down a little bit. So I think this could potentially just kind of yo-yo over this last lap for that final podium spot in third position.
There's a real medal up for grabs there, and Kaitie Compton is not going to let it go easily. As you say, you got McFadden on the run-up.
McFadden gets to the top to the cheers of the crowd. And then the course taking its toll on some shoes. I think the boa strap getting a little loose there.
Yep, we've had a few shoe issues this week, and Brad, we're sitting here right by the finish line, and we can hear as the riders are coming through, the crowd is getting noisy out there. Rebecca Fahringer coming through in second place with just one lap to go.
All right, so Fahringer heading out, and now comes McFadden in third. Compton down to fourth.
Yeah, so we missed Clara Honsinger coming across the line. Inside of one lap to go for our leader right now. She is ripping this course apart, riding from the front, putting together a perfect race up and down on this course. Fahringer in second, already gone through. Watching Compton back onto the pavement. Not a familiar scene, seeing her in a position behind, but those two riders at the front really going for it. It looks like she has gone around McFadden, so maybe McFadden had a problem on that descent because that happened pretty quick. Kaitie Compton now putting the power back down, trying to keep that gap going, and Honsinger dropping down into the off-camber section after the run-up. She's an entire section of the course ahead. She's got this off-camber section pretty dialed. And she's going to be rolling into the next descent, into the beer garden, back into the warm embrace of the home crowd.
We're used to watching a dominant performance in the Women's Cyclocross National Championships, but it's nice to see a new face on the front. I personally welcome our new cyclocross overlord, Clara Honsinger here.
It's great to see. I think, Clara is, watching her over in Europe for the first time last year, being there at the Hyde World Cup. She was on the podium as a U23 rider in the Hyde World Cup. She finished 10th in the U23 race at the World Championships. So, she's come back even stronger from her performance last year. So what she's bringing to the cyclocross this season this year is another step up. And so I'm really excited to see what she's going to take over to Europe when she goes for the Christmas break and then into Worlds.
Oh, we all are. There's so much energy and excitement for this generation of riders who are out there just learning these skills in different ways, picking it up, doing it at the front of a race like the National Championships, and Fahringer making it around this left-hand turn to a fist pump of a fan on the side. Impressed with how she did that. Definitely rowdy descents here in Lakewood. But, going back to Clara Honsinger, you're right. There is just so much promise with a rider with that ability level, already riding so well at such a young age.
20 seconds the gap from Honsinger back to Fahringer, and then a minute the gap from Fahringer back to Courtney McFadden and Kaitie Compton.
Wow. It's really impressive. Again, these riders just came into this race. They put aside the fact that they were racing against a 15-time national champion. They didn't let that get in their head. They wanted to go to the front of this race, take control, and put Kaitie on the back foot, and this is what has unfolded since the first lap.
Across the top of the course.
Another time down this descent, staying high, no rut needed, letting it rip.
So fun to watch.
Solid,
Kaitie Keough.
solid descending. Wow.
Little Kaitie Keough running right into the light here at the top of this run-up. Riding in 5th place right now after coming back from a European season. And, you know, here we see Clara Honsinger making her way up this run-up, this last little steep bit right up at the top.
And the last time for her, that's it for her. She's going to see the finish line next time she comes down here. So huge move for her. Those fans up close and personal watching a changing of the guards at the front. Stars and Stripes going in a different direction this time. Fahringer grabbing onto that barrier, pulling herself up. Really, really incredible ride for her. This is a huge move. You know, she has shown that she's willing to put in the work, the learnings, the skills, the training, everything. Putting it together for a 2nd position. Clara Honsinger still dead focused. Look at that.
I don't think we've seen her facial expression change once this entire race. She has just got so much focus, and she stays, you know, in control, and she never tells her story by her facial expressions.
Guys, when Clara Honsinger was born, when Kaitie Compton won her first national championship, Clara Honsinger, 8 years old. 23 years old today. 15 years ago, she was 8 when Kaitie Compton started winning her 15th national championships.
It's amazing. And, you know, I'm sure Clara has been watching Kaitie Compton and looking up to Kaitie Compton for so long. I mean, she was one of those riders at the World Championships last year who was sitting around the dinner table talking to Kaitie and, you know, and just soaking it all in. She's just like a sponge. And, you know, now we've seen her take all those things that Kaitie had to pass down and, you know, and put it out there on the course today.
And this is the end of that big climb. She is cruising across the top, getting ready to drop down into the fast downhill section for the last time. She's got that massive lead right now, and she has got a good look at the jersey.
And this is where she can take a deep breath right now and start to, you know, she has one more technical section to get through, but this is where Clara is probably thinking, oh my gosh, what have I just done? You know, she's got to stay focused a few more minutes, not let anything happen, get through this next section carefully, and then I think she's in the clear.
You would have to be superhuman to not let that slip into your mind at this point.
I know. You've got to have a mind of steel if you weren't starting to think about that already.
So there is Fahringer sitting in 2nd place on course, coming down in a cross now.
Right down that descent. Solid, fast, in control, in the ruts. Crowd has started to move towards the finish line. They want to see this happen. It is a coronation of a different type here. You got a jersey that you pull on, zip it up, and you are an entirely different type of rider, especially here in the U.S., especially when you're racing with Kaitie Compton. Rebecca Fahringer looking really good on that descent. Spending a couple days unlocking how to ride this course, how to make it, how to go fast without making mistakes. That has been the name of the game in every single race we've seen throughout this entire week, guys.
You know, I think we really have to give a big shout out to Becca. She was I think she was the first rider today to really decide that, okay, I am going to take control of this race. I don't care that Kaitie Compton's here and that this is usually, you know, her game. I'm going to play her game and play it against her today and put her on the back foot like she's done to everybody else for so many years.
You know, even though Kaitie Compton will get the throne this year, 15 consecutive national championships. It'll be a long time, at least 15 years before we see that done again here in the United States. She truly is Kaitie effing Compton. She earned that name.
Yes, she did. And I think, you know, as much as she will be bummed, disappointed to not have won the race again this year, I think she's going to be so proud of all these younger riders coming up through the ranks now and knowing that she passed on such a legacy to these riders that are, you know, coming up behind her.
And Clara getting out of that sandbox there, back up to speed. She has shown that the sand was not any kind of an issue for her. She was really the strongest through that thing, even back to the early laps when she was in the group. You know, you saw Fahringer lead into it and having to hop off. There was Honsinger just kind of hanging in 4th place, no big deal, but you can see the difference. You see that Honsinger was able to get through there with a really solid, stable position. Rebecca Fahringer going back and forth, trying to find the right rut to get into, but Honsinger absolutely crushing this course.
And there's Honsinger up to the top. Last time she'll have to hit that run up. And guys, it's looking like Honsinger is going to get her full 50 minutes here today. Nice that the officials made sure that we got the full distance for the women today.
All right, Honsinger is down off the off-camber section. I think she is in the clear now. She has one turn. I think maybe we just saw a little glimpse of a smile starting to set in what she is about to accomplish. I mean, we're witnessing history today after 15 years of, you know, back-to-back national championships. From Kaitie Keough.
The PA announcers here, Scott and Julie Herman, are whipping the crowd into a frenzy, and I think she can hear that out there on course. She can probably hear the announcers getting ready to welcome her back to the pavement to claim her national championship.
All right, guys, I'm going to have to duck out of here for a second because I need to go to the finish line and personally give Clara Honsinger a huge hug.
But you're going to be in a long line of fans here at the Cyclo-cross Nationals greeting the new national champion, an upset 15 years in the making as Clara Honsinger dethrones the great champion Kaitie Compton, and we have a new elite women's national champion. Welcome Clara Honsinger to the Stars and Stripes Club.
And Rebecca Fahringer coming across in second position, going right, going left, taking it all in. Second place at National, she's happy with it. She is very happy to put together a season like this. Being able to get on the podium, securing a spot in history, forever having that medal around your neck for being so good today here in Lakewood.
And that's not the last we're going to see of Fahringer. She'll have plenty more spots to get there, or plenty more chances to get the gold medal, as Kaitie Compton makes her way off of the dirt and onto the pavement. The crowd will greet her as well. Kaitie Compton will always have a place in American cycling fans' hearts. And there are not many riders that get a reception like this at the finish line. An emotional day, an emotional ride, and an emotional finish for Kaitie Compton as she waves to the crowd with tears flowing after her 15-year national championship run was broken today by Clara Honsinger.
There's so much to take in and so much to feel when you've got this many races under your belt all over the world, you know, in the spring and the summer and the fall and the winter. I mean, you've just got so many different ways you've ridden a bike and at the highest level. So much pouring out of Kaitie Compton right now. In fourth position, Courtney McFadden, ecstatic with that race she's had, back and forth, fighting for the lead, fighting with a legend like Compton. She's happy with this position. You know, she is someone from down the street, able to race in front of her friends and family, and really happy with that ride.
Clara Honsinger recovering after her victory today. Look, even the crowd is high-fiving each other for Honsinger's victory. That's how much they love Clara Honsinger. All right, let's go down to Dave Toll, who has Clara. Dave.
Hey, thanks, Brad. Well, how's Clara? I tell you what, I couldn't imagine anyone on planet Earth feels better right now. Clara, the folks coming up and congratulating you, it's like a who's who from your past, isn't it?
They're everyone. They're like the people I raced with down in Southern Oregon, my Portland folks, my Pacific Northwest folks, my family. Everyone's here. It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's a historic day for cyclocrosses. Everyone at home, you know, the big question for this Nationals was, can Kaitie Compton win 16? You've answered that now. Talk to me about the significance. It's a heavy moment in a way, isn't it?
It is. It's just a progression of cyclocross. It's not quite a changing of the guard or anything. We're all still out here racing together. It's just a little switch up in what it's been the past 2 years.
I've always wondered the impact of that crowd. We were over at the descent and the run-up, and clearly you were the crowd favorite. Did you feel that energy today? I mean, it was nice. They were cheering for everybody, but clearly you were a favorite here today. It doesn't make a difference in your end result.
I think so. Like falling through that tunnel and hearing my name from everyone, it's huge. It's like, oh, it's just fire the ride on.
As you came across the finish line, I watched you put your hands on your helmet, kind of a, is this real moment? Can you talk about that feeling? Is it as out of body as I would think it is?
I don't think I've even come to recognize it yet. Like the entire race, it was just like, I've got to hold it smooth. I've got to hold it smooth. And like even coming down the finishing stretch, it's like giving high fives, and I got to be careful here, and I just need to make it to this line and savor it.
So hey, my heart goes out to Becca Fahringer, to tell you the truth. I mean, ultimately it's crazy as you win your championship. She was so close this year. What kind of encouragement would you give her? She kind of started the fire, lit the fuse today, didn't she?
Yeah, I mean, Becca and I were warming up in the same tent. We're under the Kelowna banner today. I feel like we're kind of teammates in a way. But in cyclocross, even if you're wearing the same kit or riding the same bike, you're still competing against each other. It took everything I had just to hold her off, and that's such a respectable ride.
You know, Beth Ann Orton, so many riders here with Team S&M through the years. Talk about what it means for your region. The impact here is tremendous.
For me, it's huge. I think the real question is, like, what does everybody here think? How do they feel about this?
All right, hey, you know what? We're going to send it back, but hey, let her hear it, folks. This is your freshly minted national champion. Back to you, Brad. That's Clara Honsinger.
Wow. What a special day for Clara Honsinger, and they already had the big head printed. I love it.
Oh my gosh. You know, I was just out there trying to get through the scrum of people surrounding Honsinger right now, and it's so emotional. And, you know, as much as I wanted to give Clara a hug for her tremendous ride today, I wanted to be there for Kaitie, because as much as she knew it was going to happen one day, you know, you're never really wanting to give over that crown.
I really love the way that Clara said it. It's not a changing of the guard, it's a progression. This has been something a long time coming for Clara Honsinger, and if you didn't see it coming, you weren't watching the junior and U23 racing that we had going on here in the United States. As Honsinger had a great ride last year, but this year she got it right after the tremendous pass by Kaitie Compton on the first lap on the way down that descent. Honsinger found her legs, linked up with Rebecca Fahringer, and they said goodbye to Kaitie Compton.
I mean, they absolutely checked out of this race. Once those two were together, they were like, okay, now it's our turn. We've got to take control. We've got to put Kaitie Compton on the back foot, just like she's done to the rest of us all the other years.
And then, Tim, once they knew that the boss was out of the office, Honsinger and Fahringer went at it at the front.
And incredibly classy, as you say. The way that she describes how this race unfolded for her was just that she was out there doing her best with what she was dealing with a course that was so challenging. Racers like Fahringer, like Compton, chasing her down. All she could do was just to keep focused on the task at hand, trying to win this thing with the support of a hometown crowd.
And Clara absolutely rode a spotless race. I don't think we saw a single mistake from her today. And I mean, and that propelled her to the finish, coming down the straight line, high-fiving all her fans. And again, I can tell you the excitement out there for Clara, it was palpable. I mean, it was like, I got goosebumps. I mean, and I almost got teary-eyed because, you know, it's just the changing of the guard. And even though she doesn't want to recognize that, you know, it's awesome to watch.
She couldn't believe she hit the line, and that's going to keep sinking in for at least the next couple days. Clara Honsinger beating out Rebecca Fahringer for the national championship as Kaitie Compton ends up third for the first time in 15 years this year. Courtney McFadden in fourth. Kaitie Keough takes fifth place with Sonny Gilbert in sixth. Sammy Runnels gets a good ride in for place with the Squid team, with Caroline Nolan in 8th, Amanda Nauman in 9th, and Caitlin Bernstein rounding out the top 10. Well, our penultimate race of the day finishing up as we get ready for the last race, the Elite Men, coming up at 2:15 this afternoon. We're going to take a short break, then we'll meet some teams that were racing this week here at Cyclocross Nationals, and we'll be back at 2 o'clock local time for live coverage of the 2019 USA Cycling Cyclocross National Championships Elite Men final race of the day after this.
From the launch event of Team Bahrain McLaren, welcome to the GCN show. Welcome to the GCN show.
This week, 9 things that cyclists can't live without. Will you agree with our list?
I very much doubt it.
Yeah, me too.
We've also got the latest superfood, break dancing, why fresh breath can improve cycling performance, and a brand new giveaway.
Plus, don't forget, we check back in with Ollie as he continues his build-up to try to beat the great Eddie Merckx.
It's gonna be a long build-up.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
This week in the world of cycling, we learnt that Ollie and international cyclocross star Laurens Sweeck have got something in common.
That's right. Here is Ollie. And here is Laurens Sweeck. See? And we also learned this week that if you really love cycling, you will definitely need some of these. If you don't have them already, in fact. These being drinking straws made from titanium and sold by luxury brand Silka.
Actually, Si, if you really love cycling, I think you need one of these. This is the champagne bottle that Bauke Mollema received when he won Il Lombardia back in October.
Nice.
Hack or bodge?
Oh, it's probably a hack, isn't it? Everyone loves light tech.
I see what you did there. Took me a couple of seconds. That drinking straw, though, it looks a bit stupid in some ways, but it's actually really cool because it is made using the leftover material from Silka's titanium bottle cages.
Yeah, okay, fair play. Environmental credentials, I like that. Is it something that you couldn't live without then, Dan?
Well, I wouldn't go that far because I'm not really a drinking straw kind of guy.
No. Who drinks beer with a straw? But question is though, Dan, what couldn't you live without then?
As a cyclist?
Apart from beer?
Coffee.
Yeah, I wonder whether that's got more to do with being a human than being a cyclist.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of cycling things, something that I can't live without, but I really wish I could, is competition.
Is that just because you normally lose, mate?
Exactly, that's why I wish I could live without it. But case in point, on Sunday, as I was continuing Dan's adventure, 1,000 kilometres before Christmas, I hit an open section of road in the New Forest with a gale-force tailwind, and immediately went back into race mode and tried to steal myself a couple of KOMs.
Wow, Dan in race mode. That must have been something to behold.
Well,
Did
I
you
wish
smash
it was. No, unfortunately, I failed dismally on all the ones that I attempted. The point being that I'm just 2 weeks back into riding my bike and I'm already trying to compete, which is ridiculous.
No, it's not. It's just a natural thing. The trick, I think, is just to choose a small enough group of people to compete with and then you should be fine.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Now, the one thing, or not the one thing, one of the things that I can't live without as a cyclist is carbohydrates. And I'm not just talking about some weird, funky diet. I mean, literally, in my life as a cyclist, I think I've spent about half of it on the verge of or completely bonking. And so anytime I ride, my pockets are almost literally bulging with food. Otherwise, it's just not a pretty sight.
It's not a pretty sight when you do eat a lot. And you do eat a lot off the bike as well.
I do, yeah. I'm constantly fueled.
Right, what about data? Questionable one, this one, and again, one that I can't live with or without.
You mean you can't live without it, but you just don't like what it's telling you?
That is exactly what I mean.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I could live without data, but I really like it. A bit like Lycra, actually. I mean, technically I could ride my bike quite happily without Lycra, but it's really comfortable.
Wearing something else, hopefully.
Yes, no, I'm not suggesting that I go naked. I mean, I could ride naked for a short period of time. But no, Lycra is comfortable and it makes me ride faster. And I guess you could probably say the same about a lot of cycling essentials, is that you can do without them. Except for clipless pedals. Actually, I'm gonna hang on to those. I genuinely don't think I could enjoy riding my bikes as much if I didn't have clipless pedals.
I think I'd agree with you on that one. In fact, the only time you'll find me riding around on flat sides when I get the old stunt bike out and do some cool stunts around town.
Wow, must be really old, because I know for a fact you can't bunny hop without clipless pedals.
Well, you're wrong there. I can get at least an inch off the ground with a back wheel.
Oh, really?
On flat pedals,
So yeah, okay. Fair
Right,
enough.
what about mobile phones? As a cyclist, could you live without a smartphone?
Well, I mean, I definitely could live without a phone because, I mean, I used to, quite happily, before smartphones were invented, in actual fact, and before mobile phones were commonplace. But I'm not sure I could ride without one now. It's like a safety net, isn't it?
It is, exactly. It means that you don't have to walk miles to the local telephone box if you have a mechanical problem that's so severe that no hack or bodge is going to rectify it, or heaven forbid you have a bad accident and you can't move. But there are other uses, aren't there, to smartphones? You can capture pictures of your ride, or you can just record your ride, or you can send your planned ride to your head unit from your smartphone, as I've been doing for my rides.
Yeah, hashtag Dan's Adventure, if you hadn't got the message yet. You know, I think, mate, I know you're concerned about sounding middle-aged. I think that last paragraph possibly sounded the most middle-aged you could have, extolling the virtues of smartphones to a generation of people.
I mean, I don't generally remember a time before smartphones.
You can take photos, you can let people know where you are.
You can send your ride from your smartphone to your head unit.
Oh, that's right, okay. Next one. I could not live without saddle to bar drop.
What?
Yeah, saddle to bar drop, you heard. So, I cannot get comfortable on a bike unless my handlebars are lower than my saddle. Yeah, I'm not very fussy about bike fit generally, but that's the one thing, which is quite ironic actually, that I can't get comfortable on bikes that are designed for comfort, but there it is. It's the first thing I look at if I'm choosing a size of bike, is how high the head tube is, the stack height.
I actually surprised then, but I actually go along with you on that one.
Yeah, well, I thought you would.
I can't stand having my handlebars too high at the front.
No, just take one look at your retro mountain bike. There you go.
Right, I've got another one. Lube.
What?
That is virtually impossible to live without, isn't it? Because not only is there the extra friction involved, but just that squealing noise constantly. I mean, not only does it make you go insane, but everyone that you're riding with too.
True, yeah, no, I mean, I'd not really thought about it like that, but yeah, I guess lube is an essential. We asked around GCN HQ a little bit, actually, Cannings. He said tyres, decent tyres he couldn't live without. Joe, who works behind the scenes, he said glasses. Stefan, what about you?
Decent bar tape.
Decent bar tape.
God, we've got some right snobs here, haven't we?
Yeah, we do, yeah.
Right, well, we would like to hear your views on this. Firstly, on the list that we have just given you, what could you live without and what couldn't you? But also your own items that you couldn't live without as a cyclist. Let us know in the comment section just down below.
Yeah, actually, can we add one more to our list, Dan? Something that you cannot have lived without if you've been riding here in the UK for the last couple of months.
A rain jacket.
Yeah. Or a soft shell, in fact, actually, depending on how heavy the rain is and how hard you're working.
I think any cyclist that's been residing in the UK for the past 2 months would agree on that one. You had to have a weatherproof jacket to get out pretty much any day.
Actually, not just the last 2 months in the UK, since you were born. Let's not be around the
last 35 years,
yeah. Unless, actually, you happen to have been riding on Zwift or the Sufferfest, in fact, and are maybe training for an indoor cycling record.
This is leading to an incredible segue, Si.
Possibly one of the finest. It is, of course, time for an update on Ollie's Hour of Power.
Morning. Today I'm heading to the University of Bath to do some physiological testing in a lab, because those two slave drivers, Neil and Mac, my coaches from the Sufferfest, have kindly set me another set of fitness tests. Great. We're going to be measuring my lactate threshold and also my VO2 max, which is kind of cool because it means we'll be able to compare me to the greatest of all time. Now, the best cyclists in the world typically have a VO2 max of around 80, even sort of 90, like Egan Bernal. So let's see what I can do. Although there is a catch, I have to do it in a TT bike position. I've just done my 2 VO2 ramps. That was completely horrible. I do feel a bit like KC Neistat right now though. But yeah, the cadence one was hard. And the other, well, they were just both really hard. And it's so much harder doing it in the tri-bars than doing it on the drops. But I'm gonna have a quick chat with the scientists and we're gonna find out what the results are. Thanks to the University of Bath, the results are in and they're pretty clear. Eddie Merckx is an exceptionally gifted individual physiologically, and I'm not. So his VO2 max, the maximum volume of oxygen that his body can process per kilogram of body weight, was calculated back in the 70s to be 77 milliliters per kilogram. Mine is in the mid-60s on a road bike. When I did it on the TT bike, it was calculated to be in the 50s. So I'm at a significant disadvantage to Eddie in that respect. But, I mean, Eddie Merckx, even he's rubbish compared to a husky dog. They are said to have a VO2 max of 230. So there you go. Anyhow, because I'm never going to match him physiologically, I'm going to head into a wind tunnel and get as aerodynamic as possible. See you later.
Before we move on, Bahrain McLaren had their team launch at the McLaren UK HQ yesterday, where they also launched their 2020 team kit, which is quite a radical shift in design from this season and mirroring the colours of their F1 team cars. What do you reckon? Hot or not? Let us know in the comments. The question on everyone's lips, though, is can Rod Ellingworth get Mark Cavendish back to his winning ways in 2020? We caught up with him to find out.
Yeah, really excited. Yeah, I keep getting these random messages from him, which sort of make me laugh. But no, he's just getting the work done. I think he's sort of saying, I'm really enjoying being back on the bike and with a real plan. That's the other thing. I think he's been drifting around a little bit, and I'd like to work to a plan. I like them to sort of see the plan ahead of them. But it's not about what we set, it's about what he set, So him and his coach, who he's working with now, they've set some good plans ahead of them, and they're taking them days off.
Next up, it's time for your weekly GCN inspiration, where you submit your inspirational photos or videos. 2 methods to do so. You can either use the uploader, there's a link to that in the description below, or of course you can use the brand new GCN app and just upload your photos and videos directly there. Right, coming up, in 3rd place is Kyle Peterson. And Kyle, before we show you his photo, is going to win a £10 gift voucher for the Global Cycling Network shop.
Yeah, novelty sized as well. So even though it's £10, it'll actually cost us more than that to post to you because it's so big.
Look good though, don't they?
Very cool, very pro.
Considering the 8 minutes of work we put into them. Right, this is Carl's photo.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Now I noticed in his description he said he's training for the world's toughest race, the Munga in South Africa. Now, actually you were invited to take part in the Munga, weren't you? And you did decline.
At that point I could live without competitions.
But now if you invite Dan to the Munga, you'll probably fancy it, won't you? With the tailwind, you probably fancy a crack at the win.
Don't forget, Si, that I failed dismally with the gale force tailwind. So in an actual race,
good point,
I would fail even more dismally. Anyway, well done to you, Carl. In 2nd place this week and receiving...
Well, good point, Dan. 3-month subscription to the GCN Club, where, of course, you get a brand new pair of socks each and every month delivered to your door. So 3 months free subscription. It's actually 4 pairs of socks, isn't it?
It is, yes. And the winner of those 4 pairs is Burnout. That's his name on the GCN app, or she. Extremely challenging, but extremely rewarding. The picture perfectly paid off the huge effort I had to climb the Tre Cime di Lavaredo last summer, but totally worth it.
That is a stunning view, isn't it? And I can vouch for Tre Cime di Lavaredo. It really is quite an amazing place, isn't it? Also, I like how they've sort of tried to tackle that age-old problem that cyclists face, which is what do you do with an Armco when you want to take a picture of your bike and the view as well? But I think that's reasonably well done.
Yeah, I'd say that's a cracking photo.
Hence why you get a 3-month subscription to the GCN Club. Right then, in 1st place and winning another novelty voucher. Woohoo! Mate, we're not going to use that next week. Sorry. That's another 8 minutes. Anyway.
£100 going to the winner this week. That winner being...
Wakaba Hiram, okay? So he's got in touch on the GCN app saying he's from Kenya, started cycling seriously a year ago, wanted to buy an indoor trainer, but decided to go on YouTube and make his own because basically like a normal one is quite expensive. It's a big purchase. So here he goes. Check it out. He said the resistance on this thing is high, but it's paying dividends. So there we go. It's made me improve my performance in local races.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's why I don't want to go and compete at Munga.
No, that's a good point.
My bum kicked by people with homemade trainers that are way better than me. Anyway, a thoroughly deserving winner of £100 to spend on anything you like over on the GCN shop. Very well done to you. Don't forget to get involved for next week's show with your cycling inspirational photos and videos on the app or using the uploader.
It's now time for cycling shorts.
Cycling shorts now. I'm going to start with a case of breakdancing for unfortunate cyclist Nicholas Larsson, who was all set to be making his pro debut for the Uno X Norwegian development team. But unfortunately, that debut is looking set to be delayed slightly.
It is, because according to Skiver Folkeblad, he was out with his team on a night out, strutting his stuff on the dance floor and no doubt impressing all the locals, when he went a bit too far and broke his leg. So his start to the pro ranks will be slightly delayed, but let's wish him all the best in his recovery because he's a very talented young man. He won the Tour of Denmark this year.
Yeah, you'll have no problem at all getting back. I'd also be very, very interested to know actually what those moves were. I mean, they must have been epic. mustn't they? To get that kind of injury on a dance
Well,
floor.
I've pulled some pretty epic moves on a dance floor. I've never broken a leg in my life, so they must have been really extreme.
True, very true. And if Dan hasn't done it, then it's, you know. Right, now we're going to move on to Matthew Glazer, the Australian track sprinter who was unfortunately diagnosed with thyroid cancer a few months ago, but has just got a podium in his first World Cup back, which is fantastic. So he had surgery to remove a tumour on his neck just a few weeks ago, but is hoping to be going full gas at the Tokyo Olympics in the summer as well. So fingers crossed for that continued recovery.
Great news and very impressive indeed, isn't it? Moving on to our friend over on Twitter, Cycling Science, who's been posting some very interesting links recently, two of which have been nutrition-based.
They have indeed. First, we have news of the latest superfood, or rather confirmation, in fact, of the powers of acai. Because according...
Japanese beer.
No, that's acai the beer, not acai the berry. But anyway...
Super beer.
Is it? Okay. It's now officially official, according to the European Journal of Nutrition.
Acai, as I'm sure you're all well aware, is a source of phytochemicals and has been associated with anti-inflammatory, antioxidant and anti-genotoxic effects.
Yes.
But it is also now proven to decrease blood lactate levels and therefore increase anaerobic threshold intensity.
Yeah, and quite significantly as well. The only downside, Dan, is that participants in this test had to consume 400 grams of acai fruit pulp per day.
Ah, that's a lot.
It is a lot, and worse than that, it's an expensive ingredient, so I had a little look. That's about $20 of fruit pulp per day.
Blimey.
Yeah, so you might well be better off just using a menthol mouthwash instead.
What?
Well, yeah. This one's officially official as well, although actually not peer-reviewed. It's just a really cool thesis from a student at Toronto University called Erica Gavel. Okay, she basically tested the effects of a menthol mouth rinse on people taking part in a 30-kilometre indoor time trial in warm conditions. And she found that regular rinsing significantly improved performance, and by 2.5% at that.
Wow. So fresh breath and clean teeth improve your cycling performance?
Yes. Well, actually, no. That wasn't her conclusion. She concluded that a non-thermal cooling agent can have physiological improvements.
It's incredible, really, isn't it? Moving on to a shock admission from the founder of Rafa in an interview with Road CC last week, because apparently, Si, off-road is the new road.
Yeah, I read that as well. Just as an aside, isn't it a shame that we're calling it gravel and the term new road didn't catch on? Because then the headline would have been New Road is the new road. Yeah, anyway, Simon Mottram, who is the founder, is quoted as saying that off-road riding taps into a freer, less miserable, less data-driven side of cycling.
It's slightly ironic, really, isn't it? Because road cycling didn't take itself too seriously and wasn't really miserable at all, was it? Until Rafa made both those things cool a few years ago.
That's right. Glory through suffering, wasn't it?
I think that's the one.
Yeah. Anyway, times change, we get that, and yeah, an awful lot of people are riding on gravel now. So much so, in fact, that Team EF launched their new kit, Rafa kit, at a special gravel camp that was just a couple of weeks ahead of their actual proper team camp, which takes place on actual proper roads.
Yeah, I saw that. What did you think of the new kit?
Well, I mean, it's not markedly different from last year, is it? But I think that is a good thing because I really like it. Because for me, it kind of taps into like a freer, less miserable, less data-driven side of cycling.
Yes, that's what I drew from the new design as well. Now, another rider who'll be in new kit next season is Rowan Dennis. Ever since his public spat with his team Bahrain Merida at the Tour de France in July, people have been speculating as to where he'll end up for next year. Well, the answer is that in 2020 and 2021, he will be riding for Team Ineos.
Yeah. What a relief for Ineos as well, because I was starting to think that maybe they were going to lack a little bit of firepower for next year.
Yeah, where have they got the power from to ride in the front without Rowan Dennis?
Well, exactly, or ride everywhere, in fact. I mean, jokes aside, it's a scary proposition, isn't it? Because he's such a super talent that what could he do at Team Ineos? Grand Tour, maybe?
Well, I think he's capable of a Grand Tour if everything goes right for him. The important thing here, though, Si, is not what he's going to win the next 2 years. It's the fact that next year, when he does time trials, he'll be wearing black shorts.
Yes, that's right, with his world champ skin suit. Nice work, Rowan and Team Ineos. Now, speaking of skin suits, Dan, who would like to win not just a skin suit, but a whole load of super aero kit? not just skin suits. This is an epic giveaway, in fact, this week. 4 lucky winners will receive a huge bundle from No Pins, okay? And the bundle includes one of these, which is a super fast aero road skin suit, complete with the no pins pockets at the back, plus a time trial skin suit. They look quite familiar, Dan. You see a fair few of those at World Tour level, don't you?
You do see quite a few at World Tour level, yeah.
Plus over socks, and then these, which I think might be my favourite. Oh yes, aero socks. Look at those. How cool are they?
Flow socks, they are called. Now you'll no doubt want to know how to enter this giveaway because the total value of each prize is almost £400. So all you've got to do is head to the link, which you'll find in the description just below this video, and answer the following question. How many watts do these flow socks save you when compared to a standard shaved leg at 45 kilometers per hour? Now, may I suggest that if you're struggling to answer that off the top of your head, you head over to the No Pins website where you will find your answer.
Yeah. You know, I was going to suggest, Dan, that had you been wearing a pair of these, you might have got those KOMs you were after. But then, when I realised you said 45k an hour, there's no way you can go that fast.
Well, they still save you a bit at 22. It is now time for hack/bodge of the week. 2 ways to upload your photos. Either use the uploader or use the GCN app. First up, Si, we have a disgruntled viewer.
No!
We've got a lot of disgruntled viewers, but one of them wrote in, that one being Dan Sadler, who's gutted because Lotus 110 Club and Tom EDW have both now made it onto GCN, and he still hasn't achieved it. So it's to resubmit last week's greatest achievement pick as a hack or bodge from his home-brewed kiddie cranked tandem.
Ooh, that's pretty cool.
Take a closer look, Si.
Whoa, check it out. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
Okay, fair play. A deserved inclusion into hack or bodge. And yes, I believe it is a hack. There we go. Next up, we got this sent in by Magna. He printed a bracket to mount his Lesign light underneath the stem. Centrally mounted light. Gets a big thumbs up from me. Looks like a slightly puny light. And I know, you can't judge purely from the size, but hopefully that packs enough of a punch to get through your gear and brake cables there, but I like the positioning of it.
It is very neat indeed. So it's got to be a hack, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure, it's a hack, yeah.
We also had disgruntled viewers said that they get really annoyed if we don't pronounce them hacks or bodges. Some things we sometimes forget.
Yeah, we do, yeah.
I'm making sure this week. Moving on, also on the GCN app from Jellyfish Salad. Bike observed park in Hindley Street in Adelaide, South Australia. Never seen anything like it before.
Whoa!
Well, we have, only because you send us pictures rather like this quite often, but there's a lot going on there, isn't
there? Well, there is, because initially, Dan and I had only noticed the umbrella. But no, it was pointed out to us that this has got some rather special forks on. The first ever quadruple crown suspension forks we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Talk about saddle to bar drop. That's ridiculous.
Well, it's got a reverse stem, BMX handlebars. Is that a centrally mounted light, Si, though?
Oh, it is. Bonus. It's a hack, Dan.
Yes. Right, I think we both agree that is a bodge.
Yes. Terrifying bodge, and someone should stop riding it immediately. Okay, next up, we've got this one sent in from Dennis, or Dennis T, perhaps. Rejoining the chain without tension using a big bend paper clip. Now, I like what you've done there, because this is an aftermarket thing that you could purchase, and you've made one yourself. But can I actually lay the blame squarely at your chain tensioner? You see, get rid of that and knock your chain off the big ring, and all of a sudden you don't need anything to hold your chain together, because there's no tension in your chain anyway.
We haven't had a chain keeper for years, Si. I just remembered. Send in your chain keepers for next week.
No, because they're still rubbish. Look, he's had to invent a whole new tool because his chain tensioner is ruining it.
Right, well, we're going to stick with chains anyway, Si, because this also came in on the app from Andy Oakey. Had an old chain and needed some Christmas decorations, so waste not, want not. Look at them.
Wow, those are cool. What are they called, Dan?
I don't know. What are they called?
Chain deer.
Blimey heck, Si.
I like the fact that he's waited till his chain's really filthy and oily, so he doesn't even need to paint them. He's just got a naturally kind of browny chain on there. Brilliant.
I'm saying hack for that.
Absolutely, it's a hack.
And it's our first Christmas-themed hack or bodge for 2019, which reminds me, We need some more, don't we?
We do.
For our Christmas GCN show special, we would love to get your Christmas-themed GCN hacks and bodges, so make sure you send them over to us using the uploader or using the GCN app, and we'll feature the best ones in that Christmas show.
Yeah, also, Christmas tree by bike, which was a hashtag last year, wasn't it? And I haven't even looked for Christmas trees by bikes. So how do you get your Christmas tree home? Do you tow it by bike? If you did, or do, then make sure you take a picture and send it in. It's time for caption competition, that point in the show where you can get your hands on a rather shiny Elite GCN water bottle. All you got to do is put a witty caption to a photo that we are about to give you. Results time, first of all, Dan, from the last week.
Well, yeah, this photo from last week was by Billy Harding at the 2017 Cyclocross World Championships. And our winning caption came in from Joseph Warren, who put caption, "That breakup got messy."
Yeah, no, I can
that
see
one.
that, yeah.
And so did 20 other people, Si, giving
Ooh,
the
wow.
thumbs up. So well deserved, I would say. Send us your address, Joseph, and we'll get that GCN Elite water bottle out to you on Facebook. Send us a message.
Yeah.
Right, this week's photo, Si, comes from Zondervan with the infamous sand dunes, which see a number of crashes each and every year.
Each and every lap, more to the point.
Very true. Amongst those crashes this year were European champion Yara Castelline. I'm
Go
going
on
to get
then,
you
mate.
started.
Come on, dude.
Right, ready?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Just drawing a Castelline in the sand.
Week after week, you never disappoint, Dan. What an absolute perler.
Week after week, I'm very proud of myself as well.
Yeah. And week after week, you constantly sort of like use people's names in the captions.
Yeah, basically every week, Si writes the entire show and I just stare at a photo for 3 hours and hope I come up with something. Right, let us know your best captions. Leave them in the comment section down below. As ever, before we let you know what's coming up on the Global Cycling Network over the next week, we are going to go through a few of our favourite comments from the previous week, and we're going to start with one that came underneath the soft shell versus hard shell rain jacket from STTU. When it's raining, I wear my house.
I like that one very much.
Nice,
Yeah, very, very true. I mean, it's quite heavy to put in your back pocket, but definitely keeps you dry and more breathable as well.
We also had this one from Georgi under the same video saying, you know something's wrong when the cycling show in the UK is using artificial rain.
Well, it was science, wasn't it, Georgi? And by the way, to all those people that commented that my back wasn't getting wet, my back did get wet, all right?
Yeah, that was
not having that. Yeah, okay. Right, underneath Dan's favourite ride.
Put this one in.
Yes, Dan, funny enough, did put this one in. This is from Big Stew. Lloydie, the legend. He's bragging, he's ragging, he's zigging, he's zagging, and Jude is proof that he used to be f***ing. But probably just the once. Merry Christmas, boys. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Big Stew.
He's not far off with that. In fact, I'm surprised he didn't make GCN's top one-hit wonders video a few years ago. Right, tips to keep you riding your bike in the winter. This came in from Mark JA. Please insert comment related.
I've got so many things floating around in my head now. Just none of them can come out.
Please insert comment relating to GCN not knowing what real winter is.
Yeah, well, funny enough, JD was one of many people that happily supplied. 0 snow in this video, that's not winter. I think all these people, Dan, that have got really nice, romantic, snowy winters, they don't know how grim it is when it's 2 degrees and raining. You come over here to the UK and you tell me that's pleasant to ride in just because it's above freezing.
Yeah, you tell them, Si.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and finally, we had this underneath the GCN show from Leanne VDH. Slightly ironic that I'm struggling to pronounce Leanne's handle. Haha, T-Jeerd is not a random username, but a very common name in the Netherlands. You just don't pronounce it as T-Jeerd. Also, I'm guessing it's burnt and not Burndy, as burnt is a common name in Germany. I think we've reached a new low.
I know. That was us rinsing him for choosing such a weird.
The app's new. You can just use your own name. Why make up ridiculous usernames?
And he's the one going, yes, I've got tiered. Brilliant. So yeah, huge apologies. I'm so sorry. We did not know. Or I did not know. But now I do.
And I would say, please let us know if we've mispronounced any names this week. But, well, we haven't got that long time to read everyone, have we?
Yeah.
Right, coming up on the channel over the next 7 days. On Wednesday, we are going to show you what not to wear for cycling. And on Thursday, we're going to go through worst cycling tips. Oof. We've done that one before a few years ago, but there are so many bad tips that you get as a cyclist that we thought it was time for round 2. And on Friday, we are comparing 1x with 2x for cyclocross and gravel riding.
That's right. On Saturday, Ollie hits the wind tunnel. As we said last week, he's going to need all the help he can get, and a lot of it is going to be found through aerodynamics. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what he's up to there. Then on Sunday, it's the GCN Wacky Races Commuter Challenge, which I'm not looking forward to in the slightest. I suggest you don't watch it.
Monday, over on the Racing Channel, we have the Racing News Show. Speaking of which, on the Racing Channel this coming weekend, on Saturday, we have the next round of the DVV Trophy. That is live everywhere in the world, except for the Netherlands and also Belgium. And on Sunday, we've got the USA National Championships, where Kaitie Compton is going for something like the 115th title in a row. So let's see if she can do that.
On the one hand, that's like a really nice thing, saying how much she's dominated the sport for so long. But on the other hand, Dan, it's like saying she's 130 years old.
15th in a row, I think it is.
We're getting on for the end of the show now, but of course, we still have time for Extreme Corner. This week, it's our very own Hank. Because, I don't know whether you saw, but he filmed a video with GMBN at the weekend, in which he very nearly got run over, didn't he? Now, we thought the beef between us and GMBN was all gone, but no, Neil Donoghue still harbouring some bitterness, as you can see.
Birds. I mean, I've seen them. Neil! Bloody hell, Neil!
Whoa! That was close, wasn't it? And you might think, oh, Donny's really good. You know, he meant to do that. No, because that is really close. If it wasn't for the fact that a professional road cyclist has such lightning reactions, Hank would have lost his toes.
He would have done, yeah. I think in conclusion, Si, we can say that mountain bikers are boring, they've got no sense of humour, and they're blooming aggressive as well when they're angry.
Yes, absolutely, that's what we should take from that clip, 100%. Right, hopefully you've enjoyed this week's show. If you have, please give it a big thumbs up.
Good-looking group at the front early on. It was that 4-5 rider group before Brunner started dispatching them one by one.
Yeah, I mean, Lane Mara came out of the gates just absolutely on fire. He took charge, you know, and all these top 4 runners were neck and neck for a while. Eventually, the course mistakes started to separate things, and then all of a sudden, it was down to Eric Brunner and Caleb Swartz going neck and neck at the front of this race.
The tactical decisions for Brunner to pit, Swartz skips it, and it paid off because then Brunner started gapping him slowly but surely. It was only a few seconds at first, but Brunner continued to put time into Caleb Swartz.
And he was solid on the downhills. You see him ripping around these rutted descents once again, holding off Scott Funston here. And Brunner really looked like he was in control. You know, he was solid on the flats. He was solid on the run-ups, putting in some real consistent lap times, able to make it to the final stretch here, Brad.
And you heard Brunner call this one of the best days of his life. And if he keeps riding like this, he's going to have a whole lot more days like this as Eric Brunner wins the U23 Men's National Championship. I really love the way that Clara said it. It's not a changing of the guard, it's a progression. This has been something a long time coming for Clara Honsinger. And if you didn't see it coming, you weren't watching the junior and U23 racing that we had going on here in the United States. As Honsinger had a great ride last year, but this year she got it right. After the tremendous pass by Kaitie Compton on the first lap on the way down that descent, Honsinger found her legs, linked up with Rebecca Fahringer, and they said goodbye to Kaitie Compton.
I mean, they absolutely checked out of this race. Once those two were together, they were like, okay, now it's our turn. We've got to take control. We've got to put Kaitie Compton on the back foot, just like she's done to the rest of us all the other years.
And then, Tim, once they knew that the boss was out of the office, Honsinger and Fahringer went at it at the front.
And incredibly classy, as you say. The way that she describes how this race unfolded for her was just that she was out there doing her best with what she was dealing with a course that was so challenging. Racers like Fahringer, like Compton, chasing her down. All she could do was just to keep focused on the task at hand, trying to win this thing with the support of a hometown crowd.
And Clara absolutely rode a spotless race. I don't think we saw a single mistake from her today. And I mean, and that propelled her to the finish, coming down the straight line, high-fiving all her fans. And again, I can tell you the excitement out there for Clara, it was palpable. I mean, it was like, I got goosebumps. I mean, and I almost got teary-eyed because, you know, it's just the changing of the guard. And even though she doesn't want to recognize that, you know, it was just, it's awesome to watch.
She couldn't believe it. she hit the line, and that's going to keep sinking in for at least the next couple days. Clara Honsinger beating out Rebecca Fahringer for the national championship as Kaitie Compton ends up third for the first time in 15 years this year. Courtney McFadden in fourth. Kaitie Keough takes fifth place with Sonny Gilbert in sixth. Sammy Runnels gets a good ride in for sixth place with the Squid team, with Caroline Nolan in eighth, Amanda Nauman in ninth, and Caitlin Bernstein rounding out the top 10. Look at just some of the names that are getting ready to contend for the national championship here in Lakewood, Washington for the 2019 USA Cycling Cyclocross National Championships. We are about to start slotting the men into the grid as they get ready for a 2:15 local time start here in Lakewood, and it is going to be a good one for the final race of the day. Before we get to that, I want to look ahead to 2020 as we get ready to move the show of Cyclocross Nationals from Washington to Illinois. We're headed to DuPage County next year for Cyclocross Nationals 2020, just outside of Chicago in Kaitie Park. I'm being joined by Justin Roach here in the booth with the DuPage Sports Commission and LOC co-chair. What drove you to want to promote a Cyclocross National Championship in your hometown? Are you nuts, sir?
Well, you know, it's obviously a great sport and a huge championship for cycling in general. We've got a lot of great local partners who really came and brought this opportunity to us and said that they were interested, and we built a really great team to pull the event together and have a great team at Kaitie Park who is just looking forward to bringing the event to the area and welcoming you guys.
So, Justin, tell me about the park. A lot of history there in Kaitie Park. Well, I know two things. We're racing around tanks, and there's some pretty cool buildings on the grounds.
Absolutely. You know, that's our trademark at this point, is how many cyclocross courses out there have real tanks. We've got about 11, 12 different tanks featured within the grounds. The grounds itself is the estate of Robert McCormick, who is a longtime publisher of the Chicago Tribune. Just a lot of great history and culture. There's the First Division Museum, which Colonel McCormick served in. There's the mansion on site. And just a lot of great things for people to see and do around the course when in between competition.
And we're going to be racing right by those tanks there. Tim, you were giddy with excitement watching that video.
I feel like it's going to be hard to keep down, but it also gives me an idea that we need to start looking for who we're going to give a nickname associated with a tank in today's race, or even next year to lead into the end of the season and the national championships at this park. It's going to be great. And
Meredith, as someone who knows a little something about a strong cyclocross scene, I know you're excited to get to the Chicago cross scene for nationals.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. The roots of my cycling career started just a little bit away in Madison, Wisconsin, so in the Midwest, not far, from Chicago. So I'm really excited to bring cycling back to that area. I know that you guys have a really strong cyclocross scene there already, so I think this is just going to keep building the momentum there. So I'm really excited to see what you guys can do in the Midwest next year.
Yeah, what's great about DuPage County is that we're so centrally located. Whether you're flying in from O'Hare or Midway Airport or driving in from any direction, it's easy to get to. We've got great tourism infrastructure from our 115 hotels in different qualities and price ranges to all the different restaurants and things to see and do in the area. It's just going to be a really great destination, I think.
And cross is such an awesome sport to bring to new spectators and new fans, and I know we're going to have a ton of them at Kaitie Park next year. We're watching the end of our U10 race that was out on course earlier. We're going to be doing this next year as well. So, Justin, I hope you're ready for this level of cuteness to come to DuPage County.
Well, the toughness is what I'm most surprised by all the racers here. I saw a kid about this age take a wipeout on the start-finish line and get back up and continue through the race. So it's a lot of toughness out there.
Justin, last question. Tell us about the process of bringing nationals to town. How do you get through one from the idea to getting through all the permitting, convincing the city and the parks to let you race, to finally hosting? When did this process start for you?
Sure. We really started this process maybe about a year and a half ago. We had USA Cycling out at Kaitie Park and kind of toured it and looked at the infrastructure. The good news is we have plenty of parking, a lot of good infrastructure to support the race, and so just working closely with our local partners, like you mentioned, the city of Wheaton, as well as Kaitie Park, and all of our different partners in the cyclocross community who want to see this come to the Chicago region. So it's just been a long process, and we got a lot of work left to do, but we're certainly looking forward to it.
Oh, I can't wait, and I know you guys got a great team working on it out there in Chicago. That's Justin Roach with the DuPage Sports Commission and LOC co-chair of Chicago 2020 for CX Nats. Justin, get back to work, man.
Thank you. Will do.
See you next year.
All right, well, taking a look at some of the riders on the front row as we see the defending champion, Stephen Hyde, in the Stars and Stripes jersey here. Guys, this race is wide open. A lot of these races, we had a favorite going in, but there is a long list of contenders. Let's start with Stephen Hyde, Meredith.
Well, Stephen coming in as the 3-time defending national champion. So, we haven't seen a lot of Stephen yet this season. So I would say he's a little bit of an unknown where he's at right now. But, I mean, he's a guy that you never, ever, ever count out. He's a fighter, and, he's come a long way. Here we see him winning his 3rd national championship. And so I'm excited to see what he brings today.
Tim, there's a handful of riders that can challenge the defending champ here. Let's talk about some of the riders that might be able to give Stephen Hyde a run for his money. I want to start with Curtis White.
Well, Curtis is a great guy to name right now just because of his recent successes. This entire year, he's been consistently either at the top or fighting for that top step with Kerry Werner, nemesis for the year. But Curtis White, his time may come today where he's able to defeat Stephen Hyde. This is last year's shots from Louisville. A tough second place for him, but he was in the fight the entire time. Great runner, strong technically. I definitely have him as one of my favorites.
Meredith, Curtis White had a great year, but I don't know if anyone had a better year than Kerry Werner, who's going to be looking for his national championship. It would be a perfect cap to the season for Kerry Werner if he could pull it off here this week.
I would say that Kerry Werner has had his most consistent season yet. I mean, he came out as the overall winner of the Pro CX Series, so that just shows he was consistent throughout the entire season with a lot of wins for him. And again, as Tim, you mentioned, Kerry and Curtis just going back and forth all season long. I think in the end, Kerry came out on top with a few more wins than Curtis.
Yeah, and I think that Kerry Werner's technique here, he's known as a very skillful rider, as a mountain biker, as a background. So I think he's really going to enjoy the downhills, the descents, and the technical nature of the ruddy, muddy sections here on course. So I actually think that going into this course throughout the week, Kerry Werner would have been a big favorite. Now that it's dried out, gotten a little bit faster, I think it kind of fits back into Curtis White.
And then 4th-ranked rider on the call-ups, 4th-ranked rider to come to the line today will be maybe the dark horse pick. Gage Hecht going to give it a run today. The young man out of Parker, Colorado. Meredith, Hecht could be one to watch today. He could be a surprise at CX Nats.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'd say he'd be a surprise because he's always at the front of the race. And, the interesting thing about Gage is he's actually still a U23 rider, but he's decided, so he's the U23 Pan American champion, but he's decided, as he did last year, to race as an elite because he's there and he knows he's capable of potentially taking a win in the elite field.
Well, these will be conditions that Hecht is used to, not afraid to race in the mud here.
No, and I think Gage Hecht is really looking forward to kind of proving that point of being an elite rider instead of going under 23. So let's see what happens.
All right, well, with that, we are just about 3 minutes away from our race start. The riders getting their final instructions down in the grid as we look at live pictures from the start line with the tire check happening. It's a little different from the heat check. There's not much algorithm that goes into this, but there is Gage Hecht in his Donnelly Avolo kit out of Boulder, Colorado, looking to upset the defending champ, Stephen Hyde, today.
Whether that's a nervous yawn or let's get ready to rumble yawn, he's got the mud tires ready to go. Kerry Werner, just to his right, I think this is the year that he thinks he's best prepared most motivation he's got. He just watched his teammate Rebecca Fahringer have an incredible ride in second position. He wants to up that by 1. Let's see what he's got for tires on today. He might be going aggressive or light tread. Looks kind of an intermediate. That's a mud tire right there. So very light pressures out there today, trying to figure out how it's going to work in the mud.
Mud tires seem pretty popular. Curtis White making the same choice for the Cannondale Cyclocross World.com team as these guys getting rid of the jackets. You see Stephen Hyde getting the last drink of water as he wears the Stars and Stripes jersey. Nice to see Hyde decided to go with the Stars and Stripes in defense here. First year that the defending champ has been allowed to wear the jersey at Nationals. I like it. Call it a target on their back.
That's right. And next we see Lance Hyde coming out of San Luis Obispo, California. He is another rider that has had a big season. So I expect him to be at the pointy end of the race today too.
Over to Drew Dillman up next out of Louisville, Kentucky, who has been quietly consistent this season.
And he's a ripper in the mud, so look for him to be really technically adept, just like this guy. Cody Kaiser, front row start, known for his bike skills and handling. And this guy, big motor Tobin Ortenblad. Did you hear something about him feeling pretty good about this race?
Yeah,
is that right?
I was actually texting with him last night, and he said he has a good feeling about today. So, you know, he's a rider, again, you know, a couple years ago, he was really dominating this year. This year, we haven't seen him at the front as much, but over the last couple of weeks, I think he's put the work in, and so he's feeling good about today.
All right, they are clearing media and staff off of the course, which means it's time to go racing in Lakewood. Final race of the day at the 2019 USA Cycling Cyclocross National Championships, the elite men in the grid. And they're off as they begin an hour of racing to determine the new or defending national champion as Stephen Hyde gets boxed out just a little bit. Here comes Curtis White charging up to the front. Cody Kaiser having a good start as well in the red jersey. Some riders starting to swarm up the left-hand side of the picture, right-hand side of the screen. Here comes Drew Dillman. Warner bumping elbows, rubbing shoulders with riders trying to find a clean line as Hayden and Hecht get in there in the Donnelly Volo kits in the red.
Great start for Curtis White, leading out of that grass for the first time. He looks really solid. Gage Hecht just on his wheel, number 4 right there in the white helmet, red jersey. He had an excellent start as well. Missing from that front, Kerry Werner bumped back into 5th, now going around on the left-hand side. Stephen Hyde back into about 8th position. Look at that mess right there. It must have been a crash causing that split. I think I didn't see Jamie Driscoll just yet. And he's another one of our riders who's been on the podium many times. I see him buried about 12th position so far. Elwood right there coming by the camera. Got some of the other, we got Logan Owan. We didn't mention him in the pre-run. Local rider, many-time national champion, world championship medalist in cyclocross, getting a chance to race in his home area back from racing the World Tour on the road.
Yeah, Logan Owan is an interesting rider to talk about. You know, he races in the World Tour level for EF Education for Pro Cycling. And he's just coming off a little bit of a training camp where they were in Bentonville and then out in California. So, you know, he's got, being a local rider and coming from a cross background, you know, he's got a lot to, I wouldn't doubt that we'll see him also in the front end of the race today.
Yeah, so they're making their way up this off-camera section just at the top. Werner going out of the picture, Hyde going out of the picture. They're going to drop down into this first descent. I saw a very clean first descent for many of those riders. No big mix-ups, no big kind of crashes, causing trouble. It's like Kaiser first, White second. There goes Werner.
I think that was Hecht first.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
There's Kaiser.
There he is.
Grant Elwood coming through.
Foot out on the inside of Lance Haydet. So yeah, Hecht actually opening up a gap on White there. There goes Owen, slipping and sliding.
You know, I think we've seen in the race.
Oh, there's our first one.
Yep,
I think
first
that's Ben
casualty.
Frederick.
No, I think that is his teammate.
I saw the jersey
Josh
and the beard.
Doreen. Yeah, Josh actually is from Colorado, so he is a rider that has been winning a lot of the men's elite races back in Boulder.
Carl Decker coming through here, one of our local longtime riders from the Pacific Northwest. Here we go at the replay of that action. Coming down the corner, it looks like getting that front wheel cut up in the rut. Very, very famous. I think we just saw our newest meme being created here in Lakewood.
He's lucky the bike stopped tumbling so he could get to it on the way down. See a long line of riders already spread out here. 3 minutes in, and you're pretty far down if you're at the back of this race.
I mean, Gage Hecht has gone straight to the front, stringing this field out, because I think as we've seen throughout the other races, I mean, the race unfolds at the front really fast. I mean, it's those front runners who know that they've got to be at the front and take control early on, and those end up being the ones that, it's not been a race where we've seen other riders really come from behind back to the front group. Once that separation happens at the front, it's pretty much stayed that way for the rest of the race.
Now, Gage Hecht is going all in here early on as a big group of chasers behind him try to bring down that tiny deficit that Hecht has opened up here. You saw Stephen Hyde a little further back, but Hecht gives himself a nice lead coming up to the top of the run-up. Then it will go Werner, followed by White, and then Hyde.
I talked to Lane Mara, who was racing in the earlier junior race, and what he said was that he went out way too fast, blew up, couldn't come back on his own effort, sorry, in the under-23 race, and paid the price. So we're going to see if that is something that Gage Hecht is going to get himself into trouble for. Is this going to be too fast for him, opening up a gap on a guy like Werner or White or Hyde right behind him?
Yeah, Gage Hecht, even though he's young and he's still a U23 rider racing in the elite races, he's been racing bikes for a long time. So I think he understands how, he knows exactly what he's capable of and kind of what the effort is that he can put out at the front of a race. But, you know, I think he knows that eventually this race may settle down, but this first lap is so important to just establish yourself and start to establish those gaps back to the rest of the field where all the carnage is happening.
Yeah, if you're going to have a bad lap, you don't want it to be the first one. Any lap but the first lap to have a bad lap.
Right. So, you know, he's just really kind of setting his mark on this race. You know, he's looking at all the lines. He's gotten out there to pre-ride, but, you know, it's different when you're going at race pace. It's different when there's other riders around you. So, you know, he's just taking the opportunity right now to see the lines clear, you know, take the lines just how he wants to. And then, again, being at the front of the race, he doesn't have to worry about anyone else going down in front of him.
That mix just changed up right behind him. It looked like Werner went around White. So now he's trying to chase down Hecht. Big descent, high speed, fastest part of the entire course. There's Werner with a little bit of a gap. Nice to see Hyde tucked in there in 4th position. You're going to be going into this big descent coming up. See how they do that. These guys are absolute rocket ships when it comes to descending in mud and in the ruts. Here we go, here's Hecht, making his way around. Pretty solid. Look for Werner jumping over the hole. White almost going down, bucking Bronco all the way down, foot out. Barely able to hold it up, but there's the difference when you've got somebody confident enough to launch over the hole versus riding into it.
That takes some guts.
Yeah. You know, yesterday after the single speed races were over, Gage and I actually got a chance to go out with little Finn and do some course preview, and Gage was out there just ripping it. So, I mean, I could tell from pre-riding with him yesterday that he was feeling really good and really confident about the course today.
Well, 42 degrees. It finally warmed up a little bit, 6 degrees centigrade for our international viewers. We were hovering right around 4 or 5 degrees centigrade. It was like 38 degrees Fahrenheit for most of the day today. It just warmed up over the last hour or so. You see a lot of mud out there on the top half of that shot. That's all runoff from the power washers. It's been pretty steadily drizzling here over the last few days, but we haven't had a ton of real heavy rain. The prevailing intel was that the course drains so well because of the sandy soil, and so the water really doesn't stand around, even though it rains a ton up here in the Pacific Northwest. Really good conditions, fast enough, but still muddy.
So yeah. The last win for Gage Hecht, Pan Am Championships as an under-23, but he did go back over to Europe racing in Cuckside, which is like this part of the course. But that is really about it. Tons of elevation, lots of running, probably a nice feel for him to be able to get some of that in. But looks like Werner and Hecht getting off the front just a little. Gonna look for White to close that gap a little. I think Hyde kind of starting to maybe, it's like he's trying to save the legs a little bit. Little high RPM, low power. up until this run-up. So Hyde's trying to save a little bit of energy. After watching those last couple races, it seems like you've got to save it because it's just going to get harder throughout the day.
Kerry Werner up there now in the neon jersey with gray sleeves. It's red on his shoulder as he tries to follow Gage Heck bombing down the descent. They see they've got a gap there.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you just get a glimpse of any sort of gap behind you, that's when you get on the gas, you stomp on those pedals, you try to open that gap just a little bit more, because you don't really want to be racing in a full pack like this. I mean, you know, some of the other national championships, I think back to Reno, and that where it was a little bit more pack racing. So far today, we have not seen that pack mentality, and we're seeing gaps open up just a little bit more as they come onto this finishing straight. So we'll see what Gage Hecht and Kerry Werner decide to do here at the front, if they're going to work together or wait for the others to come back.
Crucial time in the race right now. The split is starting to happen, so White and Hyde have to make a choice whether they're going to try and force themselves across this gap or hope that they can slowly but surely bring it back. Meanwhile, Kerry Werner off to a good start here early on. This is the ride that he needed. This is the ride that Kerry Werner, or the start, I should say, that Kerry Werner has been looking for a couple years now.
A little bit of daylight ahead of Curtis White. Unlike a lot of the races we've seen throughout the year, those two really been going neck and neck every single race, one or two, sometimes a sprint, sometimes a bigger gap, but those two riders, a little bit of separation now as we see Dillman come across the line, Logan Owan hammering across that finish straight. Look at that focus, dropping Tobin Ordenblad like he's standing still. That is a tough one, but he's trying to make up some time.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise seeing Logan Owen come across the pavement, just full gas, hammer down. You know, he is a very strong technical rider. He was a 10-time junior and U23 national champion for cyclocross. As you mentioned, he was a podium at Worlds, so he knows exactly what he's doing. He's been away from the sport for a little while. I don't think it would take him too long to just sharpen his skills a little bit, but he certainly has the power and the strength and the fitness to be out here with these guys.
It's pretty cool that EF Education first let him come race cross nationals. They didn't let him do a full cross season, but come out and still race a little bit cross. This is something we're seeing a lot more in the sport. Riders trying to balance multiple disciplines. Gage Hecht is another one, running for a Volo on the road and then kind of on loan from a Volo for the Donnelly A Volo program for the cyclocross season. And
they're doing a great job with that program, giving both he and Lance Hyde a chance to race both road and cyclocross. Lance a little bit farther back into the field here. But I like watching this descent because you saw the difference between how Hecht and Werner went down, and then you saw Curtis White having a little bit of a dab, kind of lost his momentum a little bit, but the two riders at the front mastering that right now. Werner looking solid, but I am so impressed by Hecht right now. Did not expect to see him put Werner under pressure on those conditions.
Did not expect to see Hecht this early riding this way. I think we all expected to see him in the mix, but didn't expect to see him setting the tempo and causing the splits, which is exactly what Gage Hecht is doing at the front. Meanwhile, looking a little further back, a little past midway through the field here at 11 minutes in.
Yep, going Cylinder there. We've got Molly Cameron, I believe, and number 42. Lots of action in the back of the pack. I mean, this is like everyone's out there hammering no matter where they are in the group.
And you can see Hyde can see his teammate Gage Hecht as they go by. There's Stephen Hyde behind him with Curtis White right on the wheel. Now, Tim, White and Hyde, both teammates on the Cannondale Cyclocross World Team. Do they work together in a scenario like this?
Under best circumstances, yes. But again, it's really hard to figure out how you can actually help someone. You know, you've got these short straightaways in this part of the course at least. So you're not really helping someone by tucking right behind them or, you know, kind of showing them the lines. You're really still a little bit every man for themselves. The run-ups, of course, you just have to get up them however you can. So it's really only that front straight where I think that the teammate aspect will really come into play.
Yeah, on the pavement, that's where they could potentially trade poles, you know, okay, your turn, you know, to save a little bit of energy for the other rider. But really, it's just a mano a mano out there, especially, you know, if they all come back together and if they start vying for the win, that's when it's, you know, every man for himself at that point.
It looks like Hyde is starting to close the gap here a little bit. He made up a few seconds on the run-up. He's going to bring Curtis White with him. Here comes Lance Hyde in 5th place, the second Donnelly A Volo rider here. So they're occupying 1st and 5th right now.
Yeah, these two riders, super strong. It was really cool to see these two riders come together on the same team this year. You know, in the past, they've been huge competitors. Now they're teammates. As we just mentioned, they'll still be racing against each other if they do come back together. But this year, they are teammates on the same team.
Two sets of teammates up there coming together. Hyde just going out of frame there, number 5. So another young rider. So a little bit of an age range. You've got a 32-year-old Stephen Hyde, defending champ. Kerry Werner not far behind. Those two guys, good friends. Curtis White and Werner, obviously a little bit of competitors more than anything right now, but
well, these guys went head-to-head so many times this season on the Pro CX calendar, domestic racing here.
Yeah,
it's really impressive. Max Chance rolling by there. We saw Max in the latest episode of Wild Ride from CycleStream TV here. He's quickly becoming a celebrity here.
Yeah, he's another rider who does a full road season, and he's actually gone back and forth to China and some of those Asian racing a few times this year. So that kind of travel and that kind of racing really starts to take its toll. So it's great to see that he was able to come home, take a little bit of time off, take a little bit of a break, and then come out and have it. And so far, he's having a great ride today, having started, you know, a few rows back in the start grid for this race. And you know, another thing that's interesting is in the elite women's race and now in the elite men's race, what we're seeing is the young riders going to the front and taking control. You know, we saw that with Clara Honsinger. Becca Fahringer might have started that initiative, but Clara then took over, one of the youngest riders in the women's elite race, and now Gage Hecht, one of the youngest riders in the men's elite race, really taking control.
This gap is going the wrong way for White and Hyde. Those two up front are now gaining time as Hecht steps on the gas again, and Werner is able to respond. So that's going to widen the gap between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Well, I saw a little foot out from Hyde going around the corners of the bottom of the descents. They're trying to gain some time, and that puts them at risk of making a mistake. That's what happens when you have a 5-second gap turning into 8, maybe even 10. Curtis White has to get either around Hyde or they both have to get out there, because otherwise there goes their shot at that jersey. Kerry Werner and Gage Hecht right there together is no joke.
I'm a little surprised to see Curtis White so far back here. I mean, if you would have been watching the American cross racing this season, those two guys are pretty much evenly matched. And you would think in the first 15 minutes of racing where we are here, whatever those guys could do up front, you would think that Curtis White would be able to respond here. So I'm a little surprised to see White this far off.
Well, it's tough. You know, this is the national championships. Everyone shows up perfectly ready for it. They've been training. You know, I think Hyde went down to Florida. Curtis White went to LA, get some sunny weather and riding, but it doesn't matter when you have to go up against someone who's incredibly motivated like Gage Hecht, who really wants a shot at getting an elite jersey as an under 23. It's a really special thing for him to try and go and do.
Well, even though we just say it's another bike race, just treat it as another bike race. It's an elevated bike race. You know, it's the national championships, and so you never know what kind of nerves the riders have coming into this race like that, and how they manage those nerves. You know, and the pressure. I mean, you've had such a steady season between Kerry Werner and Curtis White, and all these riders. You know, you've had so much consistency, and so people start to expect that you're just going to be the one out.
Whoa! Into the tape. There goes Gage Hecht.
He can't take it with him.
Oh, and now Werner taken down by the ribbon that Gage Hecht had opened up on the course. Absolutely catastrophic for Werner. He thought he was going to go right into the lead because of that mistake from Hecht.
So White goes down, Hecht goes down, tries to ride through the tape, pulls it out onto the course. Kerry Werner rides into the tape and then goes down. Watch Hecht rip this one. He got bucked off of that saddle on the way down. Then he gets into the tape and look at this. He's like, I'm just going to keep going, forget it. But Kerry Werner, I think, tried to brake a little bit. Maybe he locked up his wheels, I think, coming in hot on the wheel of Gage Hecht.
Yeah, I'm not sure that he actually got wrapped up in the tape when he went down. It looks like he slid out, and I think you're right. Maybe he was just grabbing brakes as he was seeing what was unfolding in front of him.
And Werner was majorly affected. He's down to 4th place now. Hyde and White went by him. That's Werner at the back of the picture, dropping down to 4th. So after getting caught up in the tape, some bad luck for Kerry Werner.
I have never seen that happen a rider shooting out of the course into the crowd. Luckily, everyone moved out of the way. I didn't see any babies left in carriages on the side of the course, but man, that was impressive. Gage Heck doubling the speed needed for that descent, loses control, shoots into the crowd. Kerry Werner nowhere to go, has to hit the brakes, hits the deck, and now is on the back foot. Hecht at the lead.
That was super good heads-up riding from Gage Hecht, though, to be able to stay upright and think, I'm just going to ride this until the tape breaks. I mean, I'm not saying it was good that he went into the tape, but the way that he handled it afterwards was pretty good.
He's just like, I'm going to break this. This is the best way to get through it. I mean, I've had, you know, course tape get wrapped up in my drill and my handlebars before. I mean, and it's tough. And so he was just like, I'm strong enough to break this tape. I'm just going to ride right out of it.
That was my concern. Keep it out of the drivetrain, right, Tim? I would be afraid if you're going to ride through that thing snaps off, ends up in the cassette. You got a way bigger problem than you started with.
Oh, and that's it's hard to get around, but I gotta say, immediate burst of energy to Stephen Hyde and Curtis White. All of a sudden, they're back in second and third. Hyde looked like he was running a little bit faster, like he knew that Gage Hecht is now alone in the front, and I'm still right here. I don't know what happened to my friend Kerry Werner, but I'm going to still try and get up to Hecht, and that is what's happening. That gap is coming down right now. Hyde cleaning that off-camber section, keep riding. Curtis White right behind him. There goes Werner with Haydet. It looks like Werner's having a hard time. He can't quite get back on terms with that bike. You lose a lot of confidence when you go down like that.
I mean, Kerry's, I'm sure Werner right now is pretty pissed, you know, like at the situation, not necessarily, you know, how it happened, but just the situation. And like, you never want that to take you out of a race, and so he just has to come back from that, recollect himself, and get back into a steady rhythm.
Well, Gage Hecht is going to redouble his efforts up here at the front. Remember, White and Hyde had caught him at one point on the pavement, and now Hecht has stepped on the gas again and said goodbye a second time to these two.
I mean, again, it just goes to show you what being at the front of the race can do. You know, I mean, Gage, like, even when him and Kerry were still together, he was content to be at the front. He didn't care. He wasn't trying to get Kerry to come through necessarily. He wanted to be at the front, and that, you know, situation shows exactly why being at the front pays off.
Staying at the front,
yes.
Staying at the front. Got to keep an eye on what's happening. You never expect to see something like that, but look at Hyde. He looks newly motivated. He's now just kind of chewing down this course, trying to close that gap. Hecht looked like he's starting to kind of loosen up a little bit. He's kind of getting stuffed with the pressure of the pace that he has been doing on the front. Curtis White also looks like he's at his limit. So right now, Hyde, to me, is the favored rider out of those three.
And Hyde getting a little space in between himself and his teammate Curtis White here. So if there was any talk of them working together or waiting for each other, I think that has been answered.
Yeah, Hyde is just, you know, looking forward right now. He is within biting distance of Gage Hecht, so he's not going to let, he's just going to go all in right now. Now is the time to try to bring that gap back when it's really manageable. Hyde making quick work of that run up and closing that gap down just a little bit. Gage back on his bike first, off and running. Here goes Stephen Hyde and Curtis White following right behind him. They're looking forward, and now as they hit this upper section, they're going to have to put the power down a little bit to try to close that gap.
It's going to be really hard to do that. Werner, all of his numbers dangling off the back of his jersey. He looks like he's just been through a tornado. As you see Elwood getting his bike on his shoulder, running very quickly up this climb. But you can see the damage from that crash to Werner. He is really out of sorts. Hopefully his bike's not too bad. He hasn't gone into the pit, so he obviously thinks it's okay. But look at Hyde here, putting a little bit of time into White, still not onto the back of Hecht. This is going to be one of the favored sections for Gage Hecht. Very strong rider, time trial national champion, finishing very strongly in many of the junior and under 23 road events that he's done throughout his career, much like Logan Owan. These guys have a lot in common. But right now, there's only one of them on the front, and that's Gage Hecht.
Yeah, and this is the part of the course in the orchard that I think really plays to Gage's strengths. As you mentioned, he's a time trial national champion, so he certainly has the power. And with the power and the skill to get through this section, this is where he could potentially open up that gap just a little bit if Stephen and Curtis aren't on their best form, or you know, just sit back and hesitate just a little too long. This is where Gage could open up that gap a little more.
I think Curtis White there in third. You can just see him on the right-hand side of the screen, and White he's got to kind of settle in a little bit. You saw how maxed out they were after this very, very action-packed first 2 laps. Hyde looking like he's just cruising down this descent. Gage has got to take a breath when he can. You know, when you're on the front pushing the pace, it's entirely up to you how you do it. But when you're a young rider, you don't really know what those limits might be for you.
Future cyclocross racer enjoying the course out there. We had our U10 race just before these guys got out on course, and I'm sure that rider is going to be a mutter for sure.
So Neil Rogers has tossed a question out for us. He's wondering if Gage Hecht wins the national championships today, he would be the youngest elite men's cyclocross champion since fill in the blank.
Meredith, you need a lawyer. Never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
You need a stats.
I think Neil should know that question. Can you find that answer for us?
Well, the internet knows, so maybe that can tell us. The stats team is going to get cracking on that question ASAP. But right now, Hyde dropping Curtis White. He's got some time. He's got some space. He's starting to split back. He's going to go for a pit.
Yeah, he's going to go in, and White will follow him as well.
Get some fresh bikes for that team. 2 riders from the same squad at the same time. Really tough to do that. You got to choreograph it just right. Those gaps that they went in with are still there, but you see Gage Hecht a couple seconds over Hyde, trying to find tape to tape to tape, trying to find a little bit of traction, approaching the sand section here.
But the big question here is, can Gage Hecht maintain this for another 45 minutes? It's an hour-long race out there for the elite men. You can't lose sight of that because this is very hard to maintain for an hour. It's easy to, well, I'm not going to say easy, but it's easy for Gage Hecht to take the lead.
He's got the power. He's got power. He's really one of the strongest male American riders that we have. I mean, he has got some depth in those legs.
I mean, and he's got the fitness coming off a long road season. I mean, he's got the endurance. So, you know, racing an hour, is that too much for him to maintain this power for an hour of racing when he's got the power in the time trial, he's got the power in the road races. I mean, he's won a stage of the Colorado Classic. I mean, so he's a really talented all-around rider, so I think he has the fitness to go the distance.
He won the opening stage in Vail, had good results at the Redlands Classic earlier this year as well, so no stranger to the podium on the road, but he hasn't really been able to commit full-time to racing cross. He raced with the Alpha Bicycle Company team last year before moving to the Donnelly Volo squad this year, but he's always been trying to strike that balance between road and cross.
Well, that's a great look at that descent that they just came down, so he was able to make it without ending up in the tape one more time, so going to consider that a victory. You see Werner coming down. He's not going to have a rider go down in front of him. You can see that he's going to hit that as fast as he can, putting a little bit of time into Lance Hedette. But I don't think that Kerry Werner is riding the way that he was the first couple laps. He really looks like something was shaken loose by that big crash.
Once you lose that wheel, once you lose the rabbit that you're chasing, it's a lot harder to maintain that speed as well. So look at these guys spread out all over the pavement here as Gage Hecht, Stephen Hyde, and Curtis White make their way across the line to knock out another lap.
If you want to try this at home, go ahead and let the air out of your tires on your time trial bike and get your arms in the bars. It's basically about the same feeling. You can see the bike kind of squirming around on the pavement because they each have about 20 PSI in those tires trying to get some traction in that mud.
Those tires are made to race on the worst sections of the course, and they're inflated to do the same as well. Meredith, if you, for folks watching at home, don't try and deflate your time trial wheels because you're probably using tubes in those wheels, I'm going to guess.
Videos.
If you don't
want to see it,
to not do that. But tell me about the wheel these guys are riding. Tubular, no tube inside. It's glued on so they can run a lower pressure.
Right. Most of these guys would be riding tubulars so that they can run really low pressure. You're, you know, on a course like this, you want as much traction as you can get, and the lower the tire pressure, the more that you can get and really get in for that traction.
So Tim's guessing right around 20 PSI for these guys today, you think?
Yeah, about that. You know, that's what Strohmeyer is using 18 on his tires, and you've got a little bit bigger rider. You know, someone like Gage Hecht, he's got a few pounds on Strohmeyer, so he's going to have a higher pressure, but, you know, not too crazy. Hyde, known for really getting risky with his tire pressures. Curtis White, I just saw a photo of him when he was a junior, coming across the finish line, running away from a competitor, trying to get to the finish line. No one ever gives up, especially not a White. The entire family known for being incredible competitors on whatever sport they're competing in.
All right, so on to the descent, where the crowds have gathered to watch Gage Hecht bomb down. That's also the location of the beer garden, which may explain some of the fans.
I was talking to Courtney McFadden after the women's race, and you know, talking to her about what it was like to race in front of a hometown crowd, and she got really emotional, and it was such a special feeling for her. But you know, the fans out here are congregating around the really tough technical sections, and they're loud, they're noisy. You know, we talk a lot about the European spectators and just the sheer number of spectators that go out to watch a cyclocross race, but I still think there's something special about the spectators who come out to watch American racing, because we may not have the numbers, but we sure have the volume and the passion and the enthusiasm, who are, you know, they're cheering from for all racers from front to back, start to finish.
I didn't see a pinata at Cookside of this year.
No, you did see the confetti cannon in the last like 5 seconds of the race, which is fine. It's a good start. They're trying their best to be like American Cross. We'll let them keep going. But Hecht, you know, he reminds me of a Magnus Sheffield in terms of just how strong of a rider he's got, the power that he's working with, but I think he's being able to put it together. He's got a few more years on Magnus. He knows more of how the bike's going to handle underneath him, and I just see the sheer power that he's got in those legs, and he's really hurting Hyde. I mean, Hyde, he had momentum earlier, but I feel like it's starting to deflate a little bit. White looks a little bit better on his wheel, so it's interesting to see those guys going up and down and where they are in the race.
All right, riders going back to the run-up now. Let's go down to Dave Toll in the crowd on course. Dave.
Yeah, Brad, I can just barely hear you over the receiver. I'm with Jim Brown, cancer survivor, local legend, nationals here in Washington. What's it mean to you? I know you're in Olympia.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. We hosted UCI races here for years. And the fact that we have national championships here is just, it's mind-boggling to all of us. It's amazing.
So it's great, the state of cross that we've been talking about. I mean, this crowd is electric right now. Kerry Werner just flashing by us. There's a kid from Oregon, Lance Hayden, rolling by. Jim, it must do a heart good for you. You put so much into this sport, growing it, to see it kind of in a renaissance period right now.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I'm still staying involved. I sponsor Scott Funston, and he took 3rd place in the U23 race earlier today, and it's just an amazing community of people to be involved with.
Hey, thanks a lot. That's Jim Brown. Back to you, Brad. I'm with the legend.
Tim, anyone that's raced in the Pacific Northwest knows that name, Jim Brown, a true legend. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, the entire community rallying around Jim and all of his friends and family when he was diagnosed with cancer, and he's as a survivor, you can tell that he's living life to the fullest, and being out here watching these races, it's the coolest thing to be a part of it once again.
All right, so this is Hayden and Werner that we're looking at here, as they have come gapped off the back after Kerry Werner got caught up in that early crash trying to chase Gage Hecht down the tough descent. And then you can see the gap for Hyde and White up to Gage Hecht.
And those two just switched. So now Curtis White has gone around Stephen Hyde on this long climb. I can tell he started to feel a little bit better. So let's see if he can capitalize on that. Maybe Hyde has worked himself out of the picture by going a little bit deeper, thinking that he's going to be close enough to Hecht to get him back. But, you know, this is what happens when you have a gap. It's up to everyone else behind you to go faster than you to close it. But how are they going to do that? How are they going to go faster in sections where you're already almost at the maximum speed?
So there is White up on the front as Hyde has now dropped back into 3rd position on course. And it looks like White is going to set tempo here and try to bring this one back. Now, White has been racing the road as well. Stephen Hyde is pretty much committed full-time to cross, but White is another rider who's kind of been riding half and half, I guess. Probably a little more favoring the cross side of things, I think. Still racing a little bit on the road, maybe 60-40, 70-30, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime these riders can get into some road races or mountain bike races, I think, you know, for me as a rider, I always had to have some other type of racing throughout the season. It just didn't work for me to not not race and then come into cross season and think that I could be at the top level. I needed the speed work and the power and stuff from road, and then as much as I could, I was on the mountain bike. Being from a road background, I needed to work on my skills as much as possible, and so the mountain bike helped me do that coming into a cross season.
We're back up to Hecht making it through the pit, not pitting that time through. I don't know that we've seen him pit at all today.
Yeah, I don't think so yet. You know, it looks like the Cannondale guys were some of the first to do that. White still in second place. Hyde, it looked like he was having a little bit of a hard time holding White, but I think that they're basically stuck. You know, it's kind of like this perpetual gap between Hecht.
It's only 5 seconds. I mean, it's not a ton of time.
After 30 minutes, I mean, that's a long time being that close.
Yeah, and I think, you know, with White now leading this charge or this chase behind, I think they've been able to close the gap a little bit. I think there's certain sections of the course where, you know, those guys come back a little bit closer, and then maybe they go up to the top in that orchard, and that's where Gage is able to stretch it out just a little bit more. So I think we might just see that throughout the day, kind of yo-yoing in between until we'll see if these guys can actually make contact with Gage in this last half of the race here.
White really doing a good job. Looks like he figured out that last descent, you know, with the big hole at the top. Looks like he really increased his speed there, but he's also adding some pressure to Hyde, continuing to grow that gap. Here's Haydette and Werner. Definitely a kind of deflated Werner riding in 4th position when he should have been fighting for the lead with this guy, Gage Hecht. Watch White and Hyde. Off-camera stuff, it looks easy here, but believe me, it's not. Getting a little bit sideways. There's White. BMX background for Hyde. He's a little bit more comfortable in conditions like that. These two riders have to get their act together to get up to Gage Hecht, but as you mentioned, Brad, just 5 seconds already.
You know, I have to think that Kerry Werner is feeling a little bit deflated right now. I don't think this is not where he intended to be in the race. This is not where he was, you know, from the opening laps of the race. But the fact that he's kind of just riding right here in 5th place makes me think that, you know, he lost something. He lost a little bit of confidence or whatever it was to kind of make this charge back up to those front, to the 2 chasers who are then, you know, with Gage Hecht up in front.
At some point, you push the anger and sadness aside, and the rationality sets in that I might not win this one. He's starting to realize that he's a little too far back to come back from this one, but still having a good top 5 ride. These 3, though, still in contention for the gold medal as they see 3 laps to go on the counter, with Hecht just barely holding on, nursing a lead over Curtis White and Stephen Hyde.
Yeah, now we're seeing those Cannondale Cyclocrossworld.com riders, teammates, actually trading turns a little bit more often on the front. So, you know, I think they figured out, all right, I'll take this section. Maybe I'm a little stronger here, so I'll take the big pole here. And Curtis, when, you know, if you need a different section where you're really strong, that's where you're going to take the lead. And together, we're going to try to close this gap. Once we're back together, then we really start racing again.
So they saw 3 laps to go. That'll be 7 laps total for these guys, which means they are doing sub 10-minute laps out here today.
We've seen some big lap times, some long lap times, you know, especially after they added in the pro lines on this course. You know, the amateur racing didn't see the pro lines, so those lap times were a little bit shorter. Now with these pro lines added in, the lap times they're still really fast, and they're probably about the same as most of the amateur races, but it does make it a long lap.
Hecht, I think, put a little more time in. Last time we saw him as he clears that downhill right-hander. Little slide for White at the back. His rear wheel sliding out just a little bit. That's why they run that low tire pressure. But you can't avoid all the slipping, can you, Tim? Best tires in the world, you can pick the perfect pressure. You're still going to be slipping and sliding around out there, Meredith.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's hard not to on a course like this where you've got so much, you know, different changes in terrain and the surface, you know, so you're slipping and sliding all over this place. And, you know, these riders are just so good at managing their bike and disconnecting from their bike, but still staying on their bike.
Well, the good riders know how to use it to their advantage. You saw Hecht with that little whip at the bottom. Curtis White just did it there as well. If you know what to expect, you can use it to smooth out the line a little bit.
Yeah, those technical skills are really kind of developed over many years of riding and putting yourselves in these kinds of positions. If you've never ridden in mud or seen a course like this, you don't know what to do with it. And Hyde and White a little bit back seeing, I thought for a second he might have a rear flat, but he's not changing bike, so that's just how low that pressure is. But yeah, you know, you got to be really technically adept being able to get back on the power. As soon as you kind of saw Coach Jim Lehman working with Gage Hecht here, trying to help a rider with this incredible depth of talent, and seeing if he's going to be able to put that into use in these races and World Championships, and whether or not it's on the road or cyclocross.
Here comes White coming up to the front here. As Hyde is going to drop in behind him. These guys have been working for the better part of about 30 minutes now to try to close down a 5-second gap to Gage Hecht, and they just haven't been able to do it.
No, and it's crazy to think that these two guys have been riding together, teammates who, you know, most likely have been working together so far, you know, at this point in the race, trying to close that gap to the lone rider. There's just one rider in front of them, and they have not been able to close, you know, anywhere from a 5 to 10 second gap. And it's just, it's a testament to the strength of, you know, the young rider Gage Hecht.
All right, so that was 4th and 5th that we saw headed through the pit there. This is 2 and 3 working their way up. I think that's the Lion of Flanders having a beer, maybe.
And Hyde looks like he left open a little bit of a gap there. Tough to get back on the bike. You know, your cleats and pedals are starting to fill up with all that mud and gunk from the last few laps. So not easy getting in and out there. Looks like that's number 52. Is that Andrew Frank Montana Velo, team of Jeff Proctor. Classic jersey right there. You can't miss that one. But yes, that is Hyde. That is Hyde. White has started to open up that gap a little bit. You can see the tenacity on his face. He knows that unless he gets away from this guy right here, Stephen Hyde, defending champion, that he won't have a chance of getting up to Hecht. So there he goes. He's flown that coupe, and he's after this guy.
All right, so Curtis White has pulled the plug, and he is leaving his Cannondale Cyclocross World teammate behind as he tries to make up this, what is now a 10-second gap to Gage Hecht. You see Hecht looking over his right shoulder there. He's looking for the next guys to make their way up here, Meredith.
Yeah, I mean, Gage looks back, and he sees this gap, and he knows, okay, all right, now Curtis White is on his own. So, you know, he knows that he needs, these two teammates are not able to work together anymore, but he can see Curtis starting to charge and come and trying to close that gap. So he knows he needs to stay on the pedals, on top of the pedals, keep the pressure on, and he cannot let up at all.
All right, well, as these guys make their way through the orchard, let's go down to Dave Toll on course. Dave, where are you now?
Well, I'm a little higher up on that run-up, actually, Brad. I just had Logan Owan go by. I'm right at the point where they go off the bike and begin running. It is heavy right here. I tell you, this crowd, what's amazing here is not only are they enthusiastic, but there is a lot of knowledge out here. And you know what? Everyone was worried about getting the Oregon and the Washington folks together. They're doing just fine. No problem at all out here. It has been awesome. Back to you, Brad.
Nice to see cyclocross bridging the divide between Washington and Oregon. It's been a hot competition over the years between the two scenes.
If it's not the beer, it's the cyclocross. Right. It's the catalyst. You know, we're bringing these two very different cultures together. You know, they don't really have that much in common. And the love of cross is strong here in the Pacific Northwest. Gage Hecht, Colorado-based rider, on the front, really putting that power down. It looks like he's got Curtis White really not much to answer for this kind of power. Going around some of these left riders one more time, see if he goes into the pit. He's gonna keep on course. He's not going into the pit. Still thinks that bike is gonna be just fine, but that is going to be more than 10 seconds to White. But it looks like Hyde is now coming off the back completely to Curtis White. So Hecht going back through here. One of the riders with 2 chain rings. I've heard that they still use those in different you know, indigenous cultures across the world. But no, this is really cool to see a rider like Gage Hecht out there hammering on the front.
You know, I think Gage might have felt that gap coming back just a little bit more once Curtis disengaged himself, you know, from Stephen Hyde. He took off and he started to close it down a little bit. I think Gage felt that, and he knew that he needed to put the pressure back on just to open it up again, you know, because eventually you kind of just settle in and you start to just maintain that gap. But when that gap gets a little too close for comfort, that's when you know you got to step on the gas again and open it up.
Curtis White, very different technique there, Brad. I'm sorry, he was really kind of steady in the sand, not ripping down to the end like you just see Hyde do or Hecht before him. So I think that White really starting to think, I want a half second here, 1 second here, and that's the way I'm going to get Gage Hecht.
That's going to be tough because Hecht is really railing these features still. He's not quite into safety mode yet. He's still riding very aggressively. He hasn't switched to the conservative leaders mode yet. So Curtis White is going to have to pull a rabbit out of a hat here in the next few features to bring this gap back.
Yeah, I don't think Gage is quite comfortable with this gap, right now. I mean, he's able to just settle in, but like I said, he has to manage it. But if it gets any, Curtis, the last couple times down that has struggled just a little bit, not looking quite as smooth. Stephen Hyde down comfortably.
Yeah, there's a lot of risks that you need to take, and then some that you really don't. And so looking at the way Gage Hecht is riding now, he's trying to establish what the pace is for him, what he needs to do. However, White, on the other hand, has to go faster than normal. He has to go faster than what he's been doing so far. Gage Hecht coming into this finish line straight, he's going to see 2 to go when he gets through.
See the little Bart Simpson feature on coming off of the brake line there on the front. That is Bart Simpson's head guiding Gage Hecht at the front of this race.
He's had that on his bikes for years. It's cool to see that he still carries on the tradition, or maybe it's a superstition at this point that if he doesn't have Bart with him, it's just not going to be his day.
Gage Hecht is telling these two guys to eat his shorts off the front of this one. I had to do it.
No.
That's great.
No,
great.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
All right, so White and Hyde go through, and nice shot of Gage Hecht from up above here, all alone.
It's so quiet in that section, of course, Brad. It's so quiet. There are no fans there. There are no cars. There's no other people. You're really alone with the effort that you're under. And for Gage Hecht, I mean, is that a comforting thing, or does that make him nervous about, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to maintain this? I've got, looks like it still says 3 laps to go on the left-hand corner there. So am I going to be able to do this for more than 20 more minutes? It's really the question.
Kerry Werner looks beat up, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, beat up both physically and mentally. I mean, you can just see the look on his face. Normally he's at the front of a race and he looks so in control. And you can see the look on somebody's face when they're confident and when they're, feeling good. And you can tell the look on somebody's face when they're a little bit deflated and just like, this is not my day.
I feel for Kerry Werner, I really do. After the season he put together this year, this is going to be a tough nationals for him. But we know he's a fighter, so he'll get right back to training, getting ready for 2020.
I mean, he'll be like most of the riders out here right now. He's going to pack up pretty soon, go over, I would imagine, for the Christmas block. And actually, I think him and his teammate, Becca Fahringer, are going over, and they're going to be there for 2.5 months, is what Pekka was saying the other night. So they'll go over for the Christmas block. They'll stay through Worlds. And like last year, they'll actually stay for another handful of races, even past the World Championships. That's a long, long season.
It's a lot of cross races.
Yes, it is.
Here comes White working his way through. Hyde is now giving up even more time to his teammate. Although White's looking pretty good on the way down here, kind of surfing the bike, if you will.
That was a fast descent by Hyde. That was really good. I mean, he is such a strong technical rider. He's got to make use of that skill set when he can. Looks like he's got his sleeves pulled up. It's a lot warmer for these guys racing at this intensity than it is for us, where the spectators along the side of the course, especially when you stand up and sprint out of every corner like Hecht right there. He does look really strong. He looks really good and in control. 2 laps to go, just above, just more than 15 minutes at this pace. So you see White here. He's not standing up out of the corners. Not quite like Hecht.
So I'm noticing on Stephen Hyde's right arm, he has a white section of fabric. I'm not sure if it's tape or what it is. I want you to take a look next time you see him. It's the first time I've noticed it out there today, but when we get a close-up of Stephen Hyde, he's got something on his right bicep. I'm trying to figure out what it is. 15 seconds for Gage Hecht. Man, he is out of sight now.
Yeah.
You know what we say, out of sight, out of mind in cycling. Right. It's so hard to chase something you can't see.
You know, and when we just saw those last close-up shots of the riders, Gage Hecht, as you mentioned him, he just looks in control. Whereas you look back at Curtis and Steven, and you can just see this look of pain and suffering on their face. I don't see that on Gage's face at all. Some riders have a really good poker face, and as much as they're suffering, they still don't make it look so much like they're suffering. But I think we can really tell that Gage is just feeling confident and in control right now.
Well, really yo-yoing back and forth, White and Hyde. Now it looks like it might be the sleeve pulled up over itself on Hyde.
I was going to say it could be his shoulder number, but I think it's too big to be his number.
Yeah, it's definitely not his number. That's far too big. You know, it's something about this gap that we keep talking about. I remember back in Bend 09, Ryan Trebon was chasing me for like 40 minutes of the elite race, and I don't think I ever had a lead barely more than 10 seconds, so it's kind of a similar situation. You can't let up. You got to assume that Curtis White and Stephen Hyde that you just saw are not giving up, and they're waiting for you to make a mistake. Even if you dab once or twice or you have a real catastrophic crash, that's all that they need to come right back on you. And he's already had a big crash, so he's not out of the woods just yet.
They're going to be able to see Gage Hecht just across the orchard there as he starts to work his way back. He's starting to look like he's getting a little deep in the box here, Meredith.
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard race. They're almost 48 minutes into this race. Every lap just takes its toll. You know, the fatigue starts to set in for every rider out there. So, you know, really what Gage is thinking about right now, being at the lead of this race, potentially pulling on the Stars and Stripes jersey at the end of the day, is like he just has to ride a smart race, you know. And you know, and you have to keep your wits about you. You can't like let other things start to come into your head. You've got to stay focused, you know, and not lose sight of what's in front of you if you get too concerned about what's happening behind you.
There goes Logan Owan through the picture, and Lance Haydet.
Yeah, there's Haydet looking good. He's got his teammate off the front, and he's still in a position for top 5. So pretty great day for those two guys.
Let's run through the top 10 here real quick as they get ready to head out for the final lap of racing. We know Gage Hecht, Curtis White, Stephen Hyde, 1, 2, and 3. Kerry Werner and Lance Haydet holding on to 4 and 5. Then into 6th place for Grant Elwood, 7th place for Drew Dillman. Logan Owen riding in 8th place. Max Chance up into 9th, and Cody Kaiser rounding out the top 10 right now on course.
That's a solid rundown, solid top 10, and great job for Logan Owen to be, you know, barely in the sport again. You know, seeing a guy get a medal at the Junior World Championships, the rider he loses to is Mathieu van der Poel, who is absolutely destroying road, mountain bike, and cyclocross right now. You know that he's got the pedigree, so it's nice to see him not afraid to dabble back into cyclocross, a place that he called home for so long. So hopefully we'll have him around for a while longer.
Yeah, homecoming in a couple ways for Logan Owen, a Washington resident and a OG cyclocrosser.
Yeah, we were teammates way back when I still think of Logan and Tobin Ortenblad and Yannick Ekman, who's not racing anymore out here with the elites, but those guys were my teammates on Cal Giant.
Yeah.
And to me, they will always be little boys, you know? I think they call me Mama Bear, and that will be forever, you know, how we kind of relate to each other.
What a program that was.
That was, I mean, we had a fantastic run. I was recently chatting with Anthony Galino, and he'll soon be coming up on 20 years of when that program started, you know, back from when it was road and cross, you know, so that was a long streak that program had, and, you know, hats off. That was the program that got me started in cross, and so, you know, I owe a lot of my success in my career to Cal Giant and Anthony Galino.
Hyde and White back together here as they make their way through the sand pit.
Really strong running. I definitely see a lot of preparation for Hecht getting ready for this course. You know, he's a really strong runner right now. Able to get a good lead into this descent. I just hold my breath every single time he goes down here. Definitely the crowd thinking the same thing, but great shot of Hecht going down there. So that gap, there you go. So it looks like Hyde has gone around Curtis White, and this is another change for this top 3. Foot out on the right-hand side for Hyde. A little bit out of control. Those ruts really must be getting nasty at the bottom of that descent, but it looks like White cannot stay in front of Hyde. Hyde is back. back in a silver position right now. They're going to see 1 lap to go, so see if he's able to keep it up.
Well, Gage Hecht has put together an incredible race today. At 51.5 minutes in, he'll have one more time around Fort Steilacoom Park here in Lakewood, Washington, before he gets his national championship here. Down into the time trial tuck, he's got 3.1 kilometers to go.
I mean, this is impressive. Talk about another rider, you know, who just has had a phenomenal season. He's been really consistent. You know, I mean, he won the U23 Pan American Championships. He's not wearing that jersey now because that's Kerry Werner's jersey to wear now. And so, but to walk away with the Stars and Stripes in the elite men's field, I think that's going to be the highlight of his season.
Mirror image to Clara Honsinger earlier this afternoon. I mean, this is a pretty impressive day to be a part of. You know, watching these races unfold, seeing these riders pull out some incredible performances ahead of some of the best riders in the world, and one of the best riders in the world by far, Kaitie Compton. So this is a pretty cool shot here of Curtis White going into the sun.
Wow. He's hurting. You can see the suffering on Curtis White's face now as he tries to hold on to the wheel of his teammate Stephen Hyde up the road. But meanwhile, Gage Hecht looks better and better every time we see this kid.
I mean, now I'm sure the adrenaline is kicking in, and you know, he's becoming more and more aware of what he is about to accomplish. So really, he just has to keep it together. He can't lose focus. He can't start thinking too far ahead. He's got a lot of technical sections to get through still, so he just has to stay on the bike, keep it clean.
Really smart riding right there, though. He popped off before that off camera and now is running. It's a shorter distance to run straight up the steep hill rather than continue on the off camera, but it looks like White went around Hyde again. He's outrunning Hyde. I think that's really where he's able to make up some time. Hyde doing a little bit better job on the off camera and technical sections, but they keep changing positions back and forth.
All right, so I think these are chasers.
It's Lance Hyde and Kerry Werner right there, running in 4th and 5th position right now.
So those guys are well off of the leaders. I'm going to say at least a minute, maybe a minute and a half back to Hyde and Werner. Meanwhile, gap is growing from Hecht back to Hyde and White as he continues to put time in. At last check, this gap had gone to 18 seconds, but I think it might even be bigger than that now.
Yeah, there's still nothing on Gage's face to tell me that, you know, he's worried, that he's out of control. He just looks so smooth and so solid and in complete control right now. I'd have a hard time believing that, you know, anything could go wrong at this point. But again, it's bike racing, so you never know what could happen.
Certainly looks focused.
Yes.
White, we saw just behind him. Looks like White is going to leave Stephen Hyde behind. So we'll see another gap for them as Hecht gets up and over the flyover. And he is now under 2 kilometers away from the national championship. Taking the jersey off the back of this man, Stephen Hyde, riding in 3rd position.
So these 3 riders, when they go up against each other with Kerry Werner in the mix, this is really one of the first times that Hecht is going to be able to come out on top and do it in such a you know, incredibly strong fashion. Because leading really from tape to tape, that was a bad pun. I'm sorry for making it, but no, it's a great ride for him. White taken off from Hyde. That is going to be a much bigger gap by the top. You see that speed that he's running at. He is hammering that thing. Lots of leg speed, up and down, up and down. Hyde a little bit slower, not able to match that. So that is definitely going to be the part where Hyde says goodbye to Curtis White.
You know, on the last lap, this is the last chance, obviously, that these guys have any chance of, you know, changing their positions at all. You know, Curtis is, here we see Tobin Ortenblad coming up the run-up right here. And he is running in about 14th position right now. But Gage Heck, going back to, oh, look at that look on Curtis's face. He is just working so hard, trying so hard to get across to Gage, to hold that gap to Steven.
That is game over right there, because that is the last big section of fitness. You have to be able to hammer that climb all the way up the S-turns here. You see Hecht finishing up that section. If you're not in it to win it here, you are out of the picture. Hecht making his last left-hand turn at the top. He's going to start the long descent back into the main area. And White separating even further from Hyde right now, solidifying his second position. But it would take something really special for him to move on up to Hecht, or a mistake from that rider for those things to change right now. But that is a tough race.
I can imagine Don Kellogg at the finish line right now, waiting for his Donnelly Evolo rider to come across the line. And, you know, he's had a national champion in Lance Hayden before, when he won the U23 national championships. Yeah, in Hartford.
I love Hecht riding on the drops here on the descent on the way down.
Every second counts.
Yeah,
Take advantage of that free speed. Curtis, I mean, just showing the effort and the emotion and the pain and the suffering, and doing everything he possibly can to either, you know, just make it as close to Gage as he can, or to, you know, just get every second that he can away from Steven.
So interesting stat about Gage Hecht here. For a guy who's 22 years old, would you think that he has won exactly 2 cross races in the last 12 months, or over his career 142 wins? I mean, that is somebody who's entered a lot of races and has come out on top, so he definitely knows how to win. Impressive ride by Gage Hecht here today. Comes Hyde, letting it loose one more time.
White comes down alone and comes under the flyover 15-second gap now.
You know, you haven't even really seen Gage. I mean, Gage is able to see the riders as they go through some of these 180s. He's able to just look to his rider, his left, and see where Curtis and Steven are. But, you know, he's not a rider that really looks behind him. I haven't really seen him checking over his shoulder. He feels good about this gap that he's got right now. And so he just has to keep it smooth and stay upright until the finish.
One more time over the flyover here. Nobody in sight, even from the drone shot for Gage Hecht. They're saying 15 seconds on race radio, but I think it might be even a little more than that for Gage up the road here. As, yeah, we can't even, well, there is Curtis White coming into view just at the bottom of the picture. But this is it, guys. I think Gage Hecht is gone.
That's a lot of daylight right there. Back through the sand pit one more time. Super solid. He's got great control in the sand, lots of power on the brakes a little bit. Nice, easy turnaround. You see when the back tire makes a skid like that, it means he's already on the power at the exit of the turn, so that means he's doing it right. And here comes Curtis White, still holding that gap over Hyde, but Hyde is on his way back. Every time it goes downhill, Hyde comes back just a little bit. Faster runner in White, but is that going to be enough to keep Hyde away? He wants to get back up to his teammate. But, you know, it is tough to be in the position like we saw Katie Compton, watching the race go away, you know, losing that opportunity to win. Steven Hyde kind of in the same position right now, still in third as Katie was, and not able to be up there, knowing what it's like to be this guy going into a potential national championship jersey.
As Hecht worked his way down, White and Hyde over there on the small run-up section. And now he will work his way back down into the infield, past the barns, and onto the pavement to claim his national championship.
Don't think there's anything that can stop him now. There's nothing technical. There's nothing that could take him out of the race at this point.
I think that barn right there, when you see that coming down, you know you're off the last descent. We talked about with Clara Honsinger as well. I think that's where you start realizing what you've done on a day like today.
Yeah, I mean, even when he crosses the finish line, it's still going to take days for this to set in what he's just accomplished today. And this is what I really love. I love the fans out here sticking their hands out. Love it. Oh, that emotion is so great.
So a 22-year-old elite men's champion, as the Donnelly Evolo rider Gage Hecht raises his hands in the air in Lakewood, Washington, your new elite men's cyclocross national champion.
Second position here, Curtis White. Got to be a little bit disappointed, but yet happy that how it went down like this. Steven Hyde wiping the mud off of that jersey.
Brush it off. Brush it off your shoulders.
It'll be in a frame on a wall anytime soon once he gets home. But great defense of his jersey. Unfortunately, only third position for Steven Hyde today.
But to have 3 back-to-back national championships, you know, coming into this race, I mean, hats off to Steven for, you know, for what he's done over these last few years, and now to take that jersey and pass it off to a younger rider like Gage. I mean, it just talks about the, you know, the youth that we have in the sport right now in American cyclocross.
That's probably not the last we've seen of Stephen Hyde, though. It's not like we're saying goodbye to Stephen Hyde. There's going to be a rematch of these guys.
He's lending it to Gage Hecht. I think that's what's going through his mind. Go ahead and borrow this jersey, but I want another chance to get it back in Chicago next year. Got Kerry Werner here. Disappointment for sure. Still going to be a great professional, great sportsman. You know, he's doing his best out there. Kerry Werner winning over and over again this year. Knew that he was going to be in for a fight with that jersey. Unfortunately, it did not go his way at all.
Werner zipping up the jersey as Lance Hedette gives some high fives to the crowd. The second Donnelly A. Volo rider to roll through the line. He'll take 5th place on the day.
I think he was trying to hit everyone with that high five. I think he was trying to make sure he got everyone. Andrew Dillman here. Drew Dillman, Ohio River Valley, showing what it's like to know how to make that bike dance on those descents in that mud.
And I think Logan Owan is going to hold on for 7th place. That was Dillman across the line in 6th. There's Logan Owan in the pink hitting the line for 7th for the EF Education first team. And then I think that's Grant Elwood behind him, the Pivot Maxxis rider.
And Jamie Driscoll, perennial contender, always up for a game. You know, he wants to be up there to fight. Still top 10, definitely not the podium spot he was hoping for.
That'll be Max Chance behind him in blue. And then a good look at Cody Kaiser. All right, let's go down to Dave Toll on course, who has our winner. Dave.
Well, nothing quite like this moment, that's for sure. Gage, you've done a lot on the bike. You've won stages at the Colorado Classic, but this last hour, let's talk about what this means in the big picture of your young career.
Oh, I mean, it's amazing. This is something I've dreamed about since I was 10, 12 racing here. So it's truly amazing. It's really exciting.
Good for you. It's all-out chaos out there at times, and it looks like that moment of, I'm going to say, about 1/3 of the way into the race, you're in the tape. Kerry Werner gets tangled up. Boy, that was a dynamic moment. Talk about keeping your head straight coming out of that.
Oh, man, I mean, that lap, I was really kind of just trying to hold on to things. I blew through that tape because there was some leaves that covered the rut, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit, and I shot into the spectators. And then to see Kerry flip over his bike on the right side of me was like, I felt terrible. I hate seeing that happen. So it was kind of messed with my head for a lap, but I think I finally kind of got back into the swing of things about a lap later. So,
well, there's no question. I mean, this sport is bananas. As you're now coming into, let's move into the next phase of the race. Then it's so much excitement around you trying to hold off these two. Both Hyde and White have been. I mean, you've had a lot of battles with these guys over the years, and it's so hard to hold them off when they're coming. Talk about the last lap and your position at 1 to go.
I mean, the gap was growing at that point, and I saw Curtis may have been closing it down just a hair at the beginning, and I knew, like, going up to the top of that hill, up into the Archers, that was going to be the end of the race, really. I mean, you had to run up a few run-ups, but there wasn't really much place to make up time outside of that. So it was just laying down every bit of gas that I could going up to there and then just making it down safe.
You've raced in Europe. Compare that crowd out there today to what you had, what you've seen, I should say, in the last couple of years in Europe. It was nuts over there on the run-up and the descent.
It was deafening. It was amazing. It's something that's special to the national championships that you don't get in every race, but it was so cool. I was loving that. It's so much energy up there.
Yeah, if that doesn't make you fall in love with cross, what will? So, hey, when we look at then the finale coming in, is there a moment when you finally get to say, oh my goodness, this one was special? You've got a lot of national championships, rode a ton of cyclocross, but how does this one compare to them all?
It's incredible. I mean, I haven't won a national title in I think this is almost 4 years now since I haven't won, or since my last cross title. So it's super exciting to get it, especially in the elites. And I was still questioning if I had it until the bottom of that last descent, because that was where I went through the tape, and I was like, okay, I just got to keep everything together up there. And then once I hit the road straight away, all the emotions were starting to come clear.
Well, as they say, this one is done and dusted. Gage Hecht, your national champion. Brad, Tim, and Meredith, I'll throw it back to you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave Toll with CycleStream.tv with our winner, Gage Heck, there as the rest of our elite men's field finishes up here. The crowd's still cheering them on. Another cool part about American cross racing, American bike racing.
Yeah, they stay out here to the bitter end. They'll be out there until every rider comes through, cheering them on to the finish.
Well, guys, we talked about how that crash with Kerry Werner affected Kerry Werner. We didn't even think about how it affected Gage Heck mentally.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can imagine on that last lap, that's probably what he was thinking about, and that's the worst place to be.
And that, no, I was just going to say that's a real sign of his sportsmanship that he was concerned about his competitor.
A good day all around as Gage Heck takes the win with Curtis White in second. His teammate Stephen Hyde in third as Cannondale Cyclocross World goes 2 and 3. Kerry Werner in fourth place for the Kona Max's Shimano team. Lance Hayden takes fifth. Drew Dillman, great ride for sixth place today with the SDG Muscle Monster team. Logan Owan coming out of cross retirement with the EF Education first squad to take seventh. Grant Elwood in eighth. And then Max Chance and Jamie Driscoll in 9 and 10. Well, guys, it was an incredible race in the elite men. It was so wide open before this one started. There was no clear favorite heading into the day, but very quickly, Gage Heck established himself as the big man on campus.
Really fast start here on the grass, heading into the first run-up and descent, but Gage Heck already at the front. See some of the riders mixing it up in the back, including we've got the or not rider going up and over the bars, but at the front, definitely Heck in control. Werner matching him stride for stride. Those two riders working together in front of the Cannondale Cyclocross World duo of Stephen Hyde and Curtis White.
Well, they had that split, and then it was on to the run-up, but Meredith, what goes up must come down, and that's what caused the problem for Kerry Werner out there.
Yeah, I mean, here we see it right here. You know, as Gage mentioned, there were just some leaves covering up a rut that he couldn't see, and it just threw him off into the tape, into the crowd, and there was no way to get through that but to just keep charging ahead and break through the tape.
That dropped Werner from second down to fifth as Heck continued to push forward on the front. Meanwhile, Hyde and White were linked up together about 5-10 seconds back behind Gage Heck for a long time out there today, but they just could not close down the gap to the man out of Parker, Colorado.
So close and never making a contact with this rider. He was able to hit each of his marks, all these ruts, all these descents, doing them just right every single time, while these two riders trading blows back and forth over and over again before finally Gage Heck coming across the line, winning his first elite national championship in cyclocross as an under 23 rider, but that's just a side note. But incredible ride for him. Curtis White coming across the line in second with Hyde in third.
Well, Gage Heck gets added to the list of great winners here in Tacoma. Just outside of Tacoma and Lakewood, our junior men's 17-18 winner, Andrew Strohmeyer, with Maddie Monroe winning our junior women's 17-18 race, Kaitie Keough and Eric Brunner, and then, of course, Clara Honsinger winning our elite women's race, and then Gage Heck wrapping up the elite men's race. Well, guys, a huge day, not only for the elites, but for all American cross racers. I am so thrilled with how this week went in Lakewood. Cyclocross is doing great here in the United States.
Yeah, from all the collegiate races, all the masters races, then we got to bring the little juniors onto the TV to the live stream yesterday. We saw some amazing races with those little kids from all the way from 11 to 16, and then jumped into the elite races today. And all around, it was a great racing.
And Tim, two new winners in the elite races with Clara Honsinger and Gage Heck.
Really, you know, in the women's race, it was just something that Katie Compton, 15-time national champion, to be able to be in the fight with the rider taking that jersey off of your back, and Clara Honsinger was really a special moment to see. And Stephen Hyde giving it up to Gage Heck with a good battle. And, you know, I think that this is just one of those times where the best rider wins, and we're going to see a lot of those two riders in the future.
All right, well, that's going to do it for the coverage of this year's edition of the Cyclocross National Championships. For everyone at USA Cycling and CycleStream, our production partner here at Cyclocross National Championships, for our directors Chris Lincoln and Leah Sturgis, my name is Brad Soner with Meredith Miller and Tim Johnson in the booth, Dave Toll out in the field. For everybody here in Lakewood, Washington, thanks for watching, and we can't wait to see you in Chicago next year, Cantigny Park for Cross Nats 2020. We'll see you there.